Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of GameFace here on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I have my old friend and a great friend, Brandon Jones from Easy Allies, is here with us today. Matt is out shooting his film, actually 2 films, so he couldn't be here today.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What's his role on the shoot?
His role is the person who's financing the films.
Not a good role to be on when you're on a film set. Not a good role.
When everything
Bring
that
some
happens,
acids, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's out pretty much this whole week working on that stuff, and it is just a perfect opportunity to bring Brandon in. Now, here's something I want to bring up that I don't think Brandon even realizes is that technically this is kind of GameFace episode 200.
No,
like a landmark episode. We actually
technically there's some extra episodes.
Well, there have been tons of extra episodes.
Right.
This should have been 200, but because Matt's out, we couldn't do it. But also, we're relaunching Sifted next Tuesday. The site has been completely redesigned and redone. We're launching a bunch of brand new shows on next Tuesday, and a bunch of other surprises are coming as well. And we wanted that to coincide with episode 200, Sifted 2.0, episode 200. It was just perfect synergy.
Right.
And when Matt said he couldn't make it in, I'm like, well, that's actually kind of perfect because I can bring in someone like Jones. And this is kind of like a celebratory 200 for me.
It's the rehearsal for the 200th episode. If we get it right today, then you're set. You're good. This is the last chance you can to get all of the 1 to 199 issues out of the way.
It just feels good to do a landmark episode with someone I care a lot about and someone I respect a ton. Someone I worked with for many years. We had a lot of amazing victories together throughout our years at Game Trailers. So to me, this is kind of the perfect way to kind of put a cap on the first era of Sifted and then transition into the next one. Anyway, I am Shane Satterfield. You can find me on Twitter at Dinfire, and this is Brandon Jones. On Twitter, you can find him at Trailer Jones. This is Sifted. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. Obviously, if you are a patron to the site, you get access early. There is one new thing that we're changing, though, going forward for Sifted 2.0, and that is people who subscribe to us via Twitch Prime now have early access to Pactor Factor. So before that was held behind a tier on our Patreon, and now we're allowing people, and a lot of it had to do with the way Twitch was set up. It's finally in a place where you can actually put stuff behind a paywall for your Twitch Prime subscribers. So Pactor Factor, for those of you who are just subscribing via Twitch Prime, you can actually access the brand new episode that went up yesterday right now on our Twitch channel. So, Brandon, again, an honor to have you here on the show, man. It's great to be able to talk games with you. This is not...
Well, it's funny that what you said was downright poetic. I'm just like, dude, I'm here to talk about dreams and like the MPD. I didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't know that
it's going to come out. What's going on?
Yeah, he did not know beforehand that this was kind of a landmark show for us.
That's great.
Yeah, and the show is going to be a little different because Brandon is here, and Brandon and I worked together for so long and have so much history together. I don't want to talk about a bunch of recent kind of topical stories that are making the rounds. One, because there aren't any.
There's not a ton, yeah.
I mean, things are really
last week was I'm covering for Kyle on the podcast for the first time ever, actually, and we just crossed 200 as well. And it's it's like the top of the news thing. He was like, it's rough this week, Jones.
Yeah.
Here you go.
So what we're going to do instead, and we are going to talk, as Jones mentioned, we're going to talk about Dreams because you've been playing it and I've been playing it. And we are going to talk about the MPD report from January, but probably a lot of that discussion will extrapolate those numbers out kind of into the transition from Generation 8 to Generation 9. But for the most part, this show is going to be Jones and I talking about the big stuff in the games industry, the stuff that will be important 10 months from now. It's not just important today. And so we want to kind of take a 200-foot view of the gaming industry for this very special episode today. And I can't think of a better person to have along beside me for it.
200-foot, 200 episode. I see what you did there. Nice.
Yep. So let's get on with the show. I actually want to kick things off by talking to you about Easy Allies.
Cool.
Obviously, I think we have a good bit of crossover between our audiences. You're also going to have to
stop getting me to talk about Easy Allies, too, so good luck.
Yeah. I think we have a good bit of crossover. I would say probably 80% of our users are your patrons, but I would say probably about 1% of your users are our patrons. But still, there's crossover there. So a lot of people either follow Easy Allies or they're here because of game trailers. And And so I wanted to get people up to speed on what exactly is happening at Easy Allies. I know you guys just moved, well, not just, it's been a while now, but you guys just got a studio.
Just turned one, yeah.
It's just like
the end of January that we kicked that off.
Your anniversary.
Yeah.
First of all, maybe you should talk about what having the studio has afforded you guys to be able to do that you couldn't do before.
It's interesting because the studio really changed like our brains in terms of like how the company works as well. Because one of the things that we've had to like come to terms with is when we're covering games, when we're doing so much writing, when, in 2020, when even in 2019, 2016, when we started, like you have Slack, which has been, amazing. You have even like passing videos around through YouTube or just through something like Google Drive. It's like we discovered so many services. We're like, okay, we don't need to get together at the studio. And so when we actually shoot, because we've started out in my garage, like when we actually meet together, let's make sure it counts. Like, let's make sure we can shoot a couple things at once. Or, if all of us are driving from potentially, like down as south as Long Beach or up as north, on the 5 freeway and keep going, like all, congregating, it was like we should really make our time valuable. And then now that we're in the studio, it's like, okay, if we're going to be there, it's not so bad if we're actually there during the day because we can capture for a review if we need to. We can, one of the biggest things was because we were just shooting in a room before, now we can do 2 shows at the same time.
Right,
so we can stream and we can shoot, and those are like, there's no way you'll hear either because they're like on the other sides of the studio. And so it's really been like a time maximizing the time that we're in there. That's really kind of been the most interesting thing this year. And it's, for me, the way my brain works, like, and this was the case definitely back at game shows when people would change roles or we would like add a show or something. It's like after a year, it's always such a big deal because then everything happens again. You go through, like, one thing we didn't do, we did our Game of the Year stuff back in the garage. So this Game of the Year was the first time we actually did in the studio. And so when you come around again on an anniversary again, you're like, okay, we messed this up kind of one time previously, so we can at least learn those lessons. And so like that's really been the last year of like just kind of shrugging off anytime we were like, whoops, that didn't work, or finally got new internet. Like we got just the best business internet we could get, and it wasn't.
It makes
great.
A big difference, man.
No, I mean it wasn't great, so we actually got like an actual like direct line and got it installed and all this stuff. So it's just like, oh, thankfully, like that's another thing we don't have to worry about, but. It's allowed
you guys to launch some new types of shows too, right? You have like a quiz show now that I saw.
Yeah,
that's something I've actually wanted to do for a long time, differently from how you guys do it. I actually want to do a quiz show with our users where they compete with each other to win a prize. So it was interesting to see kind of your take on it and your twist on it.
Yeah, that was all Ian Hank and Huber, and it was kind of one of those things where it became a meme in the community for like Huber to have a game show because the guy's just a natural game show host.
He's
character.
perfect, yeah.
And so we were like, oh yeah, Huber's game show, and then after a while, it's like we're doing that, right? Like it's just a question we don't have the space and the money and the resources to do that, but when we do, that's happening, right? Like that's the thing that we're actually doing, and. Ian came up with this really great idea to give it a video game aesthetic where like you're actually playing a game and it's like an RPG. So in order to score, you're like doing damage to these monsters. And
did you have to have someone build a game for that?
Yeah, that was Jason Wishnoff from I can't remember the name of his development studio. It's the name of his, he follows on Twitter, but he did the VR game with Will Wheaton, or it was a voice activated game where it was a role playing game and you're actually like commanding the voice of the characters. Or using your voice to like move them around, kind of like XCOM style. Can't remember the name of the game in the studio. Sorry, he's gonna kill me.
It's all
but
good.
I mean, again, for like stringing a budget together, like for much less than we probably should have paid him. Like, work came in and developed the actual like back end game of it.
It's a cool show.
And but I mean, just to come up with that many trivia questions and like bring in all these special guests, and it's just like we were just talking before. We went live of just like I would like to stop learning things. It'd be great. I'd like to really kind of focus on the skills I've already developed and see if I could get better at them maybe. Than like have to learn a brand new thing.
Well, I think the other thing
every
too,
2 months,
there are so many platforms now that you're expected to be reaching out to. You can't just go on YouTube and put your videos up there and that's good enough. You have to be on all the social media platforms. You have to start looking at stuff like TikTok, even though that's not really in our demo. Everything that comes along, you have to at least look at it and see if you can actually leverage it towards improving your company. And in some ways, it's good because it can bring in multiple revenue streams. I mean, that's how we stay alive. We don't have any gigantic revenue streams, but we have like 4 or 5 different ones that just kind of trickle in. And when you congregate them all together, we're able to stay afloat. Obviously, with you guys, some of those revenue streams are big. One of your revenue streams may be bigger than all of ours put together. So that's the good part of having all these services is you can do that. But on the downside of it, it's just more work. It's I do pretty much everything. So everything that goes up on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of it, posting our video, compress it, all of it. I do all of it. So
Yeah.
when something new comes along and you're kind of challenged on whether you should incorporate that into your business, it's a big cost-benefit analysis that you have to figure out in your mind.
Yeah.
Is this time that I'm going to spend on this going to be worth it? Because if I do that, then the YouTube version of GameFace is going to go up 4 hours later than it usually does. It's this yin and yang that you're kind of constantly struggling with.
And a huge element, because there's 9 of us, and one of our biggest things that people love to see is just the dynamic between all of us.
Yeah.
That's another thing about the studio is like, let's all get in there more, so we're
Yeah.
all doing things together more collectively, and like,
Yep.
and I know this, it's rough to say this because like we have our communities that are the reasons like why we're supported, but like we also have to have fun. Like we have to, like we have
Damn
to
it, you're
enjoy.
gonna have fun.
Yeah, we have to enjoy what we're doing, and
Yeah.
so it's like you have an idea that just seems logical. Like reactions are a big thing that Nintendo's got. Their Animal Crossing tomorrow at 6 a.m. and we're just like, no, we can't. Like, we would love to get up and react to that. We can't with the schedule that we have this week. But later in the day, like in the afternoon, we'll get in there early before we shoot something, and we'll talk about it. Do like a post thing. And some people are like, oh, I can't do it live. And it's like, please. Like, man, sometimes things
it's just an
can't,
Animal Crossing direct. Like,
no, I mean, Animal Crossing is my
No, I get
2020 most anticipated.
I
Number
like
one.
it too.
Top
I'm
of the
really
list.
excited for it. But
Number one shit.
well, then you're excited.
Oh, Trailer Jones. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I had to
Get my
put your
show in
show
there.
in there, man. Of course. You can't
Nice.
have a B-roll when you on the show and not have your show in it.
I gotta do one of these for February. Talk about doing.
Is that
everything.
going to throw up a copyright strike for this episode?
Well, yeah. Welcome to. Who got us? No, they were fine. It was somebody that got.
That's something
everybody.
else you got to deal with.
No, it was somebody that got everybody. It was literally all the Trailer Jones episodes I've done since I've rebranded that show.
Detective Pikachu
we only got nailed
throws
once.
up flags.
It might have been Pikachu. I can't remember.
Yep, Detective Pikachu throws up copyright strikes.
We got through it, which was nice. We just said like nope, and that usually we're like it doesn't, because again
That stuff doesn't work. When they ask you to remove it from the
yeah.
video, it never works.
When we have our number one thing, I mean, any of our patrons that are watching, the number one thing that being on Patreon affords us that has nothing to do with Patreon specifically is the fact that like that YouTube pressure, to really customize like our channel to really only be not only making us happy and our audience happy, but like doing the right thing on YouTube, like takes that stress off, like significantly. Where it's like, hey, we can do something like a game show, because otherwise it's like, can you imagine back at to like John and Brad
trying to pitch a game
them
show. Yeah, I mean that's the best.
We
part
had a
of it.
reality show I developed called Making the Cut that was an editing reality show that I've seen other people do. I've seen other channels do like editing competitions. We
had lots of crazy ideas at GT that were shot down.
Top 100 games is the absolute heartbreak of my life.
Yeah, remember that?
Top
How long
100
we
games.
worked on that, and then Eric Flanagan just killed it out of
Can I
nowhere.
please just pour out for the top 100 games of all time. And to
Dude,
date,
we'd
I've
had,
never
what,
seen
like
I've-
50 meetings.
There might be a YouTuber, somebody could prove me wrong, but I honestly have yet to see a top 100 games feature with a video for every game. I think it would be so sweet.
That was one of those
to
days.
just kick back and watch like 4 hours of just like different writers and different people talking about like the 100 best games of all time.
That
It's
was
so
one of the
contentious,
days
it'd make people enraged.
Working
and,
at GT
oh, it'd be so cool.
and being owned by a corporation sucked, because this SVP just came out of nowhere and was like, "You're not doing that."
Right.
And we had been working on it for literally 3 months.
But that's
and
why
had like 8 meetings about it, had selected pretty much almost everything at that point. Yeah. Like, you're right. There's advantages and disadvantages. I mean, the advantage is you know where your paycheck's coming from.
Talking about the bottom line, to me, it's way better. I mean, it's just like I definitely miss. I'm even 4 years later after starting Easy Allies, I'm not making anywhere close to what we all made back at Viacom. And but the freedom. The connection to our community, that's one thing I could never get right. I remembered...
It was impossible before.
Yeah, I just didn't... I wasn't inspired. Like, that's how I kind of had to follow my...
Well, you got to remember.
My heart when I was at GT about, like, what would I want to watch that I think we can produce? It was always trying to find that line. And there were just so many things getting on camera. Like, it was you with Invisible Walls. I was finally like, hi.
Hey,
I never...
I've been working here for 4 years. I'm Shane.
Yeah, I founded this 10 years ago. Just I wasn't interested in doing it. And then later...
Yeah.
The VGAs, man, I never went to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, it sounds
boring.
Well,
you didn't miss much.
But I did, because I didn't meet anybody. I didn't go up to Ed Boon and shake his hand and be like, dude, you rule. I didn't get to meet Rick Attell. There's so many people that I just finally got to. I only got to meet Keely because he came by the office.
Right. When you could shoot bonus round or whatever.
When I would work with him, yeah. But
so what?
We might talk about Jeff Keely in this episode.
We will talk about Jeff, definitely. We're talking about E3 later, so we'll definitely get Jeff in here at a certain point. We're at the early part of the year. What are kind of the goals of Easy Allies for the next 10 months?
So we're actually kind of putting in. We just did a thing we call Phase 4, and it's interesting when you think about Phase 4 right now because Marvel kind of feels like it's stalled for a little bit. But like one big thing that we did, we're turning 4 on the 21st of March, so we're a month away from turning 4, and
awesome.
We just joined Roost, which is the ad sales network at Rooster Teeth, and we've never done that. All of our sponsorship stuff has been through our Patreon, and we just have a lot of people that are. It's crazy.
Dude, I get people emailing me every day to do sponsor videos on YouTube. And our channel is even that big.
Right.
And we get emails every day. And then you start talking to them, and they're like, okay, well, where's the contract? Oh, we don't have a contract. Yeah. See ya. See ya.
Blood handles a lot of that, and he just like
it's a crappy job.
He'll pass that along all the time of just like, haha. It's just like some effort that we're
trying to swindle you. Yeah, they're trying to get you to make an ad, and then they'll never pay you for it because you don't have a contract. Yeah. So that's.
But you just wait around for those emails because you get some fun emails every now and then of just like, oh, hey, here's confidential, this announcement's coming or this reveal coming. Like, oh, okay. So when you see something, oh, what's the? Oh, you got me. You evil people.
There are evil people out there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So wait, do you have any shows that you're launching for this year? Do you have any plans like that?
So we have a lot of things that we want to do. We have a one fun show that's coming up that Kyle and Ian are developing called Together We RPG. That's going to be us like. I don't think we've still gotten the specifics of how we're going to structure it, but it's just like us trying to make a role-playing game, basically.
Oh, Ian, really developing a game.
Ian does a lot of that on his own, and he'll just take an RPG Maker and just make a fun 1-hour adventure.
Gotcha.
So it was like, why don't we take the talents? Ian loves music, I do voiceover, all and just like Kyle could do writing, and all get together. And so that's like it's one of those ideas that's kind of gestated and turned into different things. So that's something we're going to produce this year. But because we just switched over to Roost. We dropped a couple grand on the Patreon because all that sponsorship money went away because we used to handle our biggest sponsors on our podcast through.
So wait, your
Patreon.
sponsors were just joining your Patreon and paying through the Patreon?
So we had people. That were just like, no, you can just say my name, and we're like, you don't want to. Do you have a cause or something like a sentence? And they're like, no, it's fine.
You mean patrons were just sponsoring you?
Just
guys.
at the highest tier.
Gotcha.
And so it was like, no, it's time to get actual patrons in and to actually test and see because one of the toughest things was. How much are we worth? I don't know. Like, I've never really done anything like this. I haven't run a channel like this. I've never been involved in Patreon. So it's just like, I don't know. When we're filling out insurance and dealing with stuff for rent. And it's like, what's your value? It's like, you got me, man.
I really have no clue.
Ask those 9,000 people. I have no idea, But
that is the interesting thing about Patreon. And obviously we're both on Patreon and I think that's a different kind of angle that I've taken from what you guys have done, is that I'm not 100% psyched that my livelihood is tied to Patreon because what happens when I retire? I can't sell my Patreon. Mm-hmm. Like, what value do I have to retire on other than the money that I've generated with the Patreon?
Yeah.
And so I've kind of taken the more product-oriented approach. So maybe when I retire, the website Sifted is worth something that I can sell, and then I have a little nugget that I can go into retirement with.
Sure.
So I ponder that all the time. I'm like, what do you do if you're making all your money on Patreon? I mean, unless you're a great saver, I guess, and you're good with your money. But it's something to think about, right?
You have to build that. Yeah. You have to, create that umbrella because it's not just going to
be
suddenly
there.
Magically happen.
Yeah. Do you think that in the future, like in 20 years, you will be able to sell your Patreon account? I mean, is that something that you think will even be on Patreon in 20
I mean, what was it? Counter-Strike where you could actually sell skins or something?
Yeah.
There's no limit to what human beings will try to sell.
I mean, but seriously, we get offers for people to buy our YouTube channel all the time.
Oh, sure.
And we don't even have that many followers, but we get offers all the time here, and I'm kind of surprised at how much they're willing to offer for them.
Right.
So maybe there is some value in a Patreon channel.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
I don't know.
But that is kind of from the start. I wanted to make sure that I built a product. Mm-hmm. So I have something tangible that if, when the day comes that I'll ever retire, God knows when that'll be, that I'll have something that I could sell. And who knows, it may not be worth anything then. The internet may not even exist.
Shane, I got real bad news for you, Shane.
What?
You and I are going to be talking about video games until we die.
Yeah, sorry. I
don't know what.
Somehow,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Some way.
But
I don't know if I'll be getting paid to do it when I'm 65. But.
No, you've seen, God, what is this? Come on, Suspenders. Slick, but Larry King. You've seen him now.
Yeah.
Like that guy's not. That's us, man. You and I are going to be hunched over in striped shirts and slacks.
Our industry is not kind to older people. I mean, let's just be honest.
I think, but
I think there's a lot of ageism in our industry.
Oh, for sure. But the older people, when we were older people, it's just the whole thing is
the cycle
is cyclical, and so it's we don't know what. we don't know what it's,
And by older people, I mean people in like their late 30s and 40s. Like, I'm not talking about people who are 50s, 60s.
When I was your age, I used Twitter. It's like, it doesn't, get ready. It doesn't stop.
There is a lot of ageism in our industry, though, in general. Not even just like games journalism, but just game development and the whole other kind of tentacles of the gaming industry. It's a problem for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in development. They don't want to pay the senior developers to stay on because they think they can get some kid out of Full Sail University that can just jump in and do the job.
And you can like feel that. You can feel that in a game. You can feel. That's why I just think of something like CD Projekt Red, and it's just like, I don't get that vibe necessarily from that over there. Like, there's just some companies.
I just know I've seen a lot of people who are just a little bit older than us leave a job and really struggle to find a new job. In fact, some journalists who were kind of the first wave of games journalists, like, they don't have jobs at all. Like, in fact, one of them just like took early retirement and is like, I got Social Security. I'm like, whoa, that's a little concerning to me. Yeah. Because they're like 8-10 years ahead of us. So something to think about.
That's what's good about social media. One of the rare good blessings of Twitter and the like is I've had people introduced to me that I've never heard of before, didn't even know were working at those companies. And it's just like, now I'm aware of that person because
for sure
they had a horrible day, and all of a sudden they just met all of these new people, and I saw who was their friend. Yeah. And it's like a lot of the relationships are just like one handshake apart, where you just don't know that person that you know that
you just need the person to connect you together. Yeah.
But, that's why, again, it's just like I've been doing this since right after I graduated college. So it's just like I've just having too much fun and just remembered how dicey that was for a little bit. Not only 2016 when Game Trailers got shut down, but 2014 for me was even more brutal because that was before we moved to Defy, and I knew that was going to happen. I couldn't really say anything.
Yeah.
And it was never really finalized.
I've been there, Brandon.
So there were about 11 months where it was like, we'll see. And I'm like, it's so hard for me to do my job and know that the whole time, especially when I created this damn thing. And so it was like, so just to have things as comfortable as they are now. So like, I don't have the exciting pizzazz answer to like, we have all of these new shows lined up, because it's like, we are stoked a year later to be in that studio. We have a bunch of new revenue coming in that hasn't come in yet, from the Roost deal, long story short with them. And so we're just kind of like, and also like, still don't know when that PS event is, still don't know. Like, I think there's so many events that are coming up and so many things that we have to schedule for that it's kind of like the wave's about to crash, but like it's the water is going away from the sand.
It's really silent right now. The water's
but
pulling into the ocean right now, waiting to swell up and then crash.
So I don't want to put too many things on our plate. Like by the time like Last of Us Part 2 and like remake, even just for me, like you
just want to play them.
I'm signing off from all my responsibilities for 2 weeks when Animal Crossing comes out. I will see you later. And just
I'll have to join your island.
You can't though, actually, because you can only play that game for an hour and then you're done. What else am I gonna do with my day?
How do you feel?
I'll see you tonight, Animal Crossing.
Yeah. So you guys moved into a studio a year ago. We just moved into our studio a handful of months ago.
Congrats to you and everybody. To the whole.
Yeah. I mean, it's because of the people watching that we're here.
It's a huge deal.
Which is something I do love about this is that like you have people you can directly thank when good things happen. When we worked at GT, like we put up an episode of Invisible Walls, it would have like literally like 8,000 comments. Like you don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Like it's nicer to have a smaller audience you can actually engage with and get to know the people who are supporting you. That's one thing I really love. Production values though. So we moved in here and you assume we were doing this show on Matt's couch for months because we had lost our other studio and we were looking for one we could afford. And then we moved in here and you assume, okay, our production values are going up. Probably our support, our Patreon, it hasn't. Like, it's actually gone down, our Patreon has, by a lot since we moved in here. How important do you think production values are? I mean, you guys were running out of your garage for a while. And it didn't hurt you guys at all.
Right. I'm going to call somebody out, but I mean this in the best intentions. I don't know if you know Jake Baldino, if you've ever hung out with him at events.
Sounds familiar.
He has, huge following on social media, huge numbers on when he puts stuff up on YouTube, huge following. Super nice guy, really, really funny guy. One of my favorites, like I pick out at events. He's a really funny guy. Like this last Judges Week was the first time he'd done Judges Week at E3, and he was just like elated, and it was just like fun to play Call of Duty with the guy. And like, has like it looks like this big kind of drape he just threw over like a fold out table and just like a red curtain in the background and just like hundreds of thousands, millions of views. Like,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. We were kind of talking about this earlier, just in terms of, and it's to echo what you were asking before about like, do we have new shows? Like, Yeah, I'm thinking more about like launch coverage of the consoles and like the huge games that are coming out this year. One thing that our audience talks about that we do that Bossman and Huber do all the time is bets, and like people just like love that stuff. They love when we do reactions and tournaments, and like we just did Magic yesterday, which is why this didn't happen yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's like having those big times where we get together and just like argue and quarrel. Like people love that stuff, and so. To me, it's less about like, oh, this show has a good thing and this show is going to work well, but just like if there's anything that's happening in this industry, like if you can just generate something about it, even if it's just one or a handful of episodes, I think people will be really interested in. I feel that all the time when like a big thing will happen and it's just like 2 days will pass and I'm like,
so you're saying that stuff is more important.
It feels like something just went out of the room that we could have done potentially because that big thing just happened, and I'm seeing lots of other people.
So you're saying that stuff is more important than a nice set and expensive gear.
Look at Maximilian. You know, it's like he's just in his room. Look at it's he's a streaming pro gamer, so it's a different thing. But like Ninja isn't, on an esports stage when he plays, he's in his house.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's tough because for us, honestly, like even having 9 guys, even having this, the big studio that we have and all the blessings that we have, like we still can't do like that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We just can't spend that much money.
That was one advantage of being a Viacom.
Yeah.
Is like at the beginning of the year, if we mapped something out big that we wanted to do, I could try to find a piece of the budget to make it happen. And our budget was big enough that if you guys were really strongly felt about it, I would be like, okay, we're going to do this. And it's a little risky, but it's not your money. So.
Yeah. We got a booth at E3 twice, and that's like the dumbest thing that you can do. It's like if you're GameSpot or IGN or Games Radar, I've seen it.
The first
or
year,
Game Informer, I think it's at
the first
Comic-Con.
year it was important.
Somebody does Comic-Con really big.
The first year was really important because we were coming up on GameSpot and IGN as far as traffic was concerned.
Yeah.
And people were like, what is this? Like, I know Shane's over there. They didn't know anybody else at Game Trailers at that point. And we needed to do that. We needed to have a booth at E3 where every PR person, every game developer, every marketing person had to physically come and meet us and see not just me, who they knew already, but everybody else that was working there, see our operation, see sort of our production value, see how serious we were about it. That was a big turning point for us. In our booth, I'm sure you remember, was up next to the Starbucks. Like we got like the last spot.
But you had to walk by us.
Yeah. And people waited in line and like, what's Game Trailers? What is it? I mean, it all worked, dude. So
honestly, top 5 probably memories of all of Game Trailers was that was the only time I had an exhibitor badge. So I got to go like the day before.
Yep.
And sitting and there was at the food court. So I went and like got French fries and just like sat. And there's all these guys building this, like nobody there was from production. It was just the construction guys.
Yeah.
And none of them knew me.
They didn't know that you were the founder of Game Trailers.
So I was just sat there and ate French fries and watched them build a Game Trailers booth. Like that was...
You're a Game Trailers.
That was a kick.
Yeah, it's got to be, man. Yeah, that was nice. So we needed that. You're right, though. After that, it was kind of overkill.
Splurging, like, again, we just can't,
you
can't do that stuff. So sometimes, like, our community will be like, great idea. And I'm like, fantastic idea, but we just can't.
Where's the money for it?
Maybe we could afford it, but then you'd be
surprised,
I think,
something else then,
of the stuff that would just, where'd that go? It's like, that's what we were.
We launch shows, and then if we don't get big response from them, like, we just kind of forget about them. Like,
sure.
like they just go away because you get into a schedule or a grind of like, I know we can do this with the manpower that we have. And you're right. If any deviation from that means that something else is going to suffer. So again, it's a cost-benefit analysis that you're just constantly doing when you don't have a gigantic corporate budget to
do. And I think
stuff.
You can have shows that are just totally random, where you're just like, oh yeah, we did 2 in a month, and then we didn't do it again for 3
Wait
months.
till next Tuesday, Sifters.
Nice.
We're developing a couple shows right now that'll launch next Tuesday.
Because it's just the nature of, and we're kind of in preview season now, and so a lot of people are like, we have like one person's out one day because they're up in San Francisco for something, and then the next day they're up in San Francisco for something. And so it's just tough to like, Nintendo's like, yeah, Thursday at 6 a.m. You're like, Nintendo.
Why?
I know
why, because it's 9 a.m. on the East Coast, but still.
And we were just planning this big Magic the Gathering tournament. We're like literally just about to go live. Damiani's like, uh-oh. I'm like, what? He's like, Animal Crossing Direct. I'm like, now?
At 6 a.m.
I got the headphones on, like ready to go.
Well, the good news is no traffic to get to your office.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably...
That's about when you'd have to leave to not have traffic here in LA.
Yeah. But... yeah, it's just it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a fun year, and again, we're just still
transition year.
We're still in that studio as well, and so it's tough because a lot of people are like, I got a question. I do a stream every Monday morning where I just like answer questions from the community, and somebody was like, so what's where are we going? Just kind of we seem kind of comfortable right now, and I'm like, we're still in that studio, like, and we've had rent increases, and we've had it's like there's always just that idea of like, if things don't work out in some way, like how can we make sure that we
what do
stay
you do
here
then?
or cover our assets and
Yep.
assets.
You have to have an escape hatch.
Yep.
But anyway, well, it sounds like things are going great over there, man. I mean, I just want to say that I'm extremely proud of what you guys have done. It's amazing what you guys have accomplished.
And this might not be a business thing, but I have a almost 8-month-old at home, and so the fact that I'm not dead is
it's amazing.
Woo!
Well, it's a testament to the fact that you have great guys working with you that can pitch in and help out and do a lot of stuff that you need done.
Which rolls back around into just the actual fun, the enjoyment.
Yeah.
After we did the magic thing, it was like, how was that? Did we like doing that? Because that's something we want to do again.
That is the thing that I miss.
Because then people will back you up. And,
that's the thing I do miss the most about not working with you guys anymore is that I work alone. I work alone all the time.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I'm crazy social extrovert guy, and I'm sitting by myself literally 12 hours a day, just nonstop. And I miss it. I miss you guys just personally as my friends because I don't get to see you guys anymore. But even
it's overrated.
It's not. I don't think it is, man. Because when you work together, you bounce ideas off of each other, and everything becomes better. It's if I don't nail something, it doesn't get nailed because there's nobody else to be like, Shane, maybe look at it this way. It's there's nobody to do that. So it's having that many people around you who are just as passionate as you are is very important, and that's definitely something I miss.
And that's movies. I'm a film student, so that's the education that I came from for forever. I was doing that before I started, and we're still making videos and stuff. But it's specifically movies is the industry I thought I was going into, and all of that is just the dynamic of everyone needs to just do a thing.
Yeah, and make sure you keep doing.
Don't get in anyone else's way.
And make sure you keep doing the thing.
Yeah, and just do it the best that you can. So that's why. Yeah, when people they toss out awards at the Oscars, just I can't. There's a couple. I saw some people throwing out genres at the Oscars, and I'm like, oh yeah, good point. Why don't we why don't we give out an Oscar for best stunt person? Why don't we give out split up some of these other Oscars into different things? Because there's so many people.
There are,
it's
absolutely.
So huge.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, congratulations. You guys have done amazing. I'm really happy for you guys. I hate to say I'm proud of you guys because that makes me sound like I'm a parent or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I've eased way into the dad role. I got the gray hair.
But I do remember, when I worked with a lot of the guys who were on Easy Allies, when I worked there, they were PAs and they weren't even a part of the editorial team.
Some of them we weren't even there.
Yeah. So to see, in particular, to see those guys really evolve and kind of become one of us, it's amazing, man. It's awesome.
Stuff
That's a testament to you, to Damiani, to Bloodworth, guys who have been doing it for a long time, kind of teaching up the other guys and getting them up to speed. It's just great. You guys are just doing an amazing job.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Congratulations, man. All right. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about the only game in this week's episode.
Yay!
And I believe it's one near and dear to your heart, Jones.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about Dreams. The only big release from the last 3 weeks, I guess, unless you count Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Right.
This has just been an awful beginning to the year. Unfortunately for us, though, we did get Dreams, and this game, in my opinion, is freaking amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's really incredible.
I'm reviewing it right now, so I'm so zoned in on this conversation. I saw this on rundown. It was
perfect timing.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I've been playing it,
and haven't really talked about it on anything that we've done. Really,
it just came out.
My experience
Friday.
Specifically in the last week or so.
Were you in the early access beta and everything?
Yeah. I didn't get in it right away.
So you weren't as shocked as I was
pulling my hair
to
out.
Go in middle week last week and see what was going on.
Sure,
in there.
I was plenty shocked because I stopped playing around August, right after we had the kid, and it was just kind of okay, time to reprioritize. Sorry, Red Dead Online. So there were a lot of stuff that I'm revisiting now that I hadn't only checked out, or somebody said oh yeah, this is the level I'm going to build. Here's a little bit of it, but I haven't done the full thing yet. And so then going back and be oh, I remember this. Whoa, what did this thing become? Or
just the breadth of. And the overall quantity of content available on. I mean, I got the review code last Tuesday, I think it was. So I got to play it a few days before it actually launched. Yeah. And I went in there on Tuesday and I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just overflowing with content.
But it comes at you from all directions. You just never know what the hell is going to happen in any of these things. It's kind of I don't know. I this is dangerous because I haven't really dug into this game, but it's kind of a Stanley Parable kind of thing where there's not just tremendous production values, but you're so surprised every 5 seconds. And that's the thing is it's not just what people can specifically do with the tools. I think of something like Super Mario Maker where it's it's clever given those limitations, and it's tough to get to the limitations of what people
I have not found them
can do in here. Yeah, it's It's pretty all over the place, and it's a bummer because I'm going to be reviewing it and putting an official like score on it. And it's like
I'm like the hardest game to
checked
review.
Out, 15% probably of the total output that people have made.
We have someone else writing the game eval, and he sent it to me, and he's like, "Man, like I have no idea how the scores. How do you score this? Like, how do you score the graphics?"
Yeah.
When you can, how do you score?
When you can make them better,
right? How do you score audio?
I don't like the way this level looks. Like,
right.
Just
well, then
jump
just
in there and have fun.
Right. Tear it down and build it up again.
I mean, to me, the biggest question, because I think of it's so easy to get excited about this game and talk about this game, but if you legitimately don't care and you're just like, why on earth? Like, should I be excited about this? To me, like one of the main things, because I'm not a stranger to. I mean, this company, first of all, Little Big Planet 1, 2, and 3, which I remember Matt Blair wanted to give Little Big Planet 3 a 10 or something when he reviewed it. And I had played 1 and a little bit of 2, but I didn't play 3. But I was a big fan of Disney Infinity. I'm a big, like Lego games and like anything that you have, some kind of like creative outlet, Minecraft, you can just build stuff and like make stuff tick. I love that. But I think inevitably, you either have kind of limitations like you do with Minecraft, where it's like it's going to look like Minecraft no matter what you do, or you have something like super complex like Gary's mod, where it's like, oh yeah, you can actually go in and make these things, or even like Unreal, or even like some engines that are very user friendly, or Little Big Planet,
Unity,
3 really, Unity is a great example. With this, the gaps that you need to fill in order to actually start to build stuff and then, not only get better at it, but enjoy the process of getting better at it. Like, it's good to be an accomplished guitarist, but like learning guitar sucks. Like, learning Japanese sucks. Like, these things are really hard to do. You have to have a really good, work ethic and just really commit to those things. And so it's like really been fascinating to have Medium Molecule and see them get 7 years or more. Who knows
crazy.
How much they've been working on it before we even got
this
the
may have been a project
reveal.
they've worked on since they were founded.
Right.
I feel like Little Big Planet, they were just steps towards this, basically.
And so, to see them get as much, support as they have, like, to just kind of, like, figure out this platform in general. And clearly something, I mean, like, we had them in the studio, and I was like, you don't have to nod or smile, but I know this is going to be on PlayStation 5. We know this is going to be on PSVR. Like, this is going to be something that, like, Sony's going to support for a super long time.
Oh, it's a platform. Yeah.
And just so it's fascinating to see them really invest in long-term, and I think really challenge more than anything that I've played before to have, your average, someone who feels that they're so far away from the creative angle of any of these games to just like hit that point where they're like, okay, all right, like I'm just going to download the template for a first-person shooter and just mess around. And it's like, yeah, you'll be surprised how
thank God for the templates.
Much fun you have. And
thank God for the templates, though, because one thing I will say, it is amazing. I mean, just right off the bat, it's amazing what people are creating. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes you get stuff like this.
Oh, of course. But this to me is like, also the magic. Like Amanda and I played co-op on like probably 30 of the worst games that are available in Dreams and just cackled like the entire time.
Some of them are funny. Some of them are not.
Yeah. Because you can bail so fast. You're out. Like you're not going to get stuck in something. It doesn't take long to load the next one.
That's true. So, it is pretty quick in and out.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend a lot of time there.
And if you are a stickler for the best of the best, like they do have some playlists that's just like all of these are good. Like,
the curation seems okay.
It's my biggest hit against it. We're talking about how do you review this, and like that's my number one gripe is like you had a lot of time with the beta. I'm surprised this is not as organized as I thought it was going to be.
I think the big problem is that it relies a lot on user votes. And user votes are always going to go towards something that's recognizable. So, like when you go into the Dreamiverse, everything that's up that's like the most popular is like a Sonic clone or a Star Wars thing,
or a Superman thing, or a Batman thing,
and Spider-Man. Like and they're all terrible. Like, have you played the Spider-Man one?
The Spider-Man one. The best one that I saw that I was like, holy cow. That I wouldn't say necessarily a clone. Somebody just built, not Isengard, but what's the White City in Lord of the Rings? The end of Return of the King, like where the finale takes place, where I cannot remember the name of the White City, but like just he built the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
Like you just walk through it in first person. You can do a menu. When you go out to the map of the menu, you can just like look at like the whole thing that they built. that's one that like I've built some dreams and they're like, oop, you run out of room, and it's like, if I already ran out of room, how the hell did that guy build the
No,
white
see, I don't understand it either. Like when I first built my habitat, my little space, like I plopped down like 4 things and they're like, that's it. I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't even like covered the floor with grass or anything. Like, I haven't figured out yet, like where the limitations come from.
I think cloning has a lot to do with it. I think when you like when you sculpt something and then you just like, it adds like almost nothing to the map. Whereas if you actually like create a new thing or bring in a new element, and just as is proven with anything, once you add any sort of AI, the whole thing just has a heart attack. Like,
I mean, that's also where the game, to me, kind of goes out of bounds a little bit. So I liked Little Big Planet. Mm-hmm. I liked Little Big Planet 2 more. Little Big Planet 3, I played hardly at all. Because I felt like I had kind of been through it.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
And so I get to Dreams, and obviously I'm going to give it another chance, but what I found is that it's still not fun to create. Some people don't want it to be fun because they're aspiring game developers, or they love Minecraft, or they love any sort of a game tool type game. For me, I really don't. Like, I've never really got into Minecraft. I never got into Roblox or any of those other things. Like, I like games that make the building a part of the game itself. And there aren't many games that do that.
Yeah. Fortnite.
Yep, it's one of them. Although now it's
forget about it.
You only realize
I still play Save the World. Darn it!
You only realize it matters when you play against somebody good, and they build like an entire house as a shield in front of you when you're trying to shoot them with your gun.
But they do. I mean, you boot up Fortnite, and there are 3 options: the single player, the multiplayer, and like just a pure level creator thing. So like they do have
like Dragon Quest Builders. Like it's not an amazing game. It's okay. It's passable. But see, there they actually gamify the building, where it's actually relevant to completing objectives within the game. This is all driven by how badly do you want to make a video game.
Yeah,
and it's fine. Like the tools are just as user-friendly as they could possibly be. Like, they have really done an amazing job making something that's very complicated as simple as it can be. For me personally, it's still way too much.
Yeah.
I can build a level and that's fine. And I can do that really quickly now. I'm used to it. But when I start trying to apply behaviors to things and AI to that's where it just it loses me. It's
fun to see dreams that have like legitimate opening credits, because you'll see dreamers that got together and were like, oh, okay, dude, I have the whole idea, I built it, there's no logic.
Yeah.
I think I saw one person that like wanted to make a turn-based RPG. And
there is one.
Yeah,
like a good one.
There's a ton. There's like a Final Fantasy demo clone. It's funny. But they're, I think built the character, built the world, probably even was like tampering out with music and stuff. They were just like the logic part of it. I can't. And so I think you'll see that more, but again, that does take a grassroots effort. You do have to be in the forums.
Maybe that's kind of good.
You go to their website and you do have to dig in.
Maybe that's natural selection. Maybe it's good, because if you have people like me trying to make stuff and uploading it, it's just going to add more crap and noise to cut through for the people who want to consume the good stuff on there. So
I think
maybe
a little bit of that
barrier of entry might be a good idea.
I think a little bit of that is curation. I also think that is not necessarily a war that this game needed to win, just really getting you and, convinced of that because of how much goofy single player stuff there is. And like I said, it's not a super expensive game. I think this game will clearly be supported by Sony for a very long time. And so it's like, you should do kind of like what I do with Fortnite, where it's like every 3 or 4 months, just like jump back in.
New season, just play it to see what's up.
Click the latest things, and it's like they even have like trending right now. It's just a lot of it's really tough. I mean, some stuff you're jumping into is not finished, and it's tough to like know what those things are before you jump into stuff.
And I feel bad.
It's kind of the Wild West.
It's like, so I'll find something in the Dreamiverse and I'll play it. It'll be a piece of crap, but I can see, because I've been working on my own stuff, I can see how much work they put into it.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm sitting there.
That Spider-Man thing, there's some cool buildings in that map.
I mean, you can but it's awful, but you can see how much work that they've done on it. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there with that moment where I give it a thumbs up or not. And I'm like, I really want to give this person a thumbs up, because I know they're killing themselves working on this.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give it the thumbs up because I don't want other people to stumble on this and have to play it before it's done. And it puts you in this moral quandary where you're like, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't.
Right.
So I usually...
I'm pretty judicious with those thumbs
You give the thumbs up.
No.
You don't. I didn't either. You
got to convince me. Because
it's more important that
because it's early and there's really not...
Yeah.
I mean, I think I think just based on, name alone, I don't know. A lot of those things that I jump into, again, that one from Lord of the Rings is the only one I'm like, holy cow, I would buy this. This is insane. Where 99% of the other stuff that I see,
it's garbage for the most part. I do want to say this before we go any further. Everything that you've been seeing in this B-roll has been created in Dreams. So all this campaign footage that you're seeing, this is all created with the actual tools in Dreams. It's hard for me to believe.
Yeah.
Did you play through the whole campaign?
Oh, yeah.
It's only an hour and 40 minutes or something. It's not very long. But it will blow your mind that they've created everything with the actual game. There were times I was like, no. There's no way they made this with Dreams. But then you start poking around in the Dreamiverse.
No, sure.
And you'll start seeing shades of stuff that looks almost as good. There's a kart racing game in here that's freaking amazing.
I know.
It's better than some of these crappy
That's
indie
the thing.
kart
There
racers that come
are
out.
close to 100 games in here that are fantastic.
That are legit.
That are really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
And this game's $40.
And that's way more than I thought there would be. I'll be honest.
Yeah. And again, it's when you think about the fact that, you're talking about, here's
a Rezo gun ripoff.
This one's so damn funny. The sound design on this one's really good because it's called Southpaw Cooking, and you got the phone in the other hand, and so the whole time you hear just the Peanuts voice and you're like, yeah, and so it's it's impossible, but it's just the way it's shaded.
I just used it to play with the
you can tell
the physics.
Is this
the
card game you were talking about?
Yeah, this is a kart racing game.
But again, a fun example of
Look
synergy.
At this. They built this in Dreams.
Yeah, man. And I'm
that
sure
looks
this
as good as Mario Kart 8.
I'm sure this person's just going to go nuts. You're going to keep jumping back in throughout the year. This is going to look even better on PS5.
Well, by the end of the year, they'll probably have 15 tracks.
Totally.
I mean, look at this, dude.
All of these characters are characters other people have made in Dreams. So if you go into when you pick the characters, you can see the creator actually mentioned in the credits. And so it's what a fun thing to add. It's like Smash Brothers style. Yeah. Wouldn't that be fun if Dreams had a fighting game that everyone just keep adding characters?
Yeah,
man.
yeah. And there's just one master fighting game.
Yeah, and then we'll certify them and put them in. There's just a Smash Brothers. You can just do 16-player multiplayer of everybody on PS5. And so it's
and that is one thing I love is that you make something and you can share it and then anyone can take it. So if you're I don't really want to build a tree, you can go in the Dreamiverse
trees,
and you can find all the trees that people have created.
And that was not necessarily there when it went into beta last year. And so it's been interesting to build that over time. And so it's we've all been, even when something that's, I think, been kicking ass, Division's been a little rocky, but Apex Legends and certainly League and all the huge games no one ever talks about because they're just doing fine.
I talk about League.
They're I just don't necessarily
people
talk
don't
about
like it,
because,
but I do
it. These things, it's always the question of how much are they really going to support this? How much more is there going to be later? What's the interest in investing if it takes me a while? Because here's what I think of, people finally got not only, the beta started in January, but people were building stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
What happens when somebody launches a Dream that they were like, hey, here's something I'm working on for 3 years. And I haven't done anything. I haven't revealed any of it yet because I just didn't want to. Because I'm kind of an introvert.
Here it is.
But I am a budding game developer, and and you're like, it's a free game. It's this is a whole new thing that I can just jump in.
Yep.
And you're like, well, I have better things to do with my evening. It's even if you play for 10 minutes. It's it's a fun.
Well, again, the game is $40.
Yeah.
So the entertainment
it's such a
value per
surprising
dollar.
Game.
And that's really what it comes down to, right? Is how much fun are you going to have with this game for how much you're spending for the experience? And I think if that's the quotient that you're looking at, this is a no-brainer. Buy it.
I just think there's a clear 50-50 split between do you want to make stuff or do you want to play stuff. I think it would have benefited Media Molecule. I said this in person. I will always shout this out to just try to imagine, because I know they're there's so many different people to check it out. And it's there's 5.
Yeah.
There really are only a handful of personalities that are going to approach this game and have a really hard set opinion before they go in. Mm-hmm. And the people that are I want to build stuff. You don't need to worry about that.
Well, they're good.
They're pretty good. I think
their tools are amazing.
I think they've catered mostly for those people.
I'd agree with that.
I think when you have people that are angry about this game and are only playing it because a friend recommended it, it's you gotta set it up in some way where you dangle a carrot, carrot in front of them and guide them to be here's the hour where I guarantee you will have fun. And it's a little bit too much right now. I don't know. Do you like shooters? And it's you need to steer. You need to pull me a little bit more. Let me bail at any time. But I think the roadmap going into this game could be a little bit more. I mean, I loved it, but just more beneficial to
the average
sales,
consumer.
to bring in more people in that are skeptical. And
so the campaign in this is really short. It's only about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes long.
I don't think they try to sell it as more. I definitely got the vibe that it was going to be. I think it says so, actually, like a movie length. I think it says in the description. So it's like,
on this show, I just like to get that out there because there are some people who will only want to buy this for what Media Molecule. And here's one thing I'll say. What they create is pretty good. Like, Media Molecule should probably be making, like, traditional games.
And they made, like, 6 to 8 of their own levels as well.
Mod, and their templates are, I mean, they basically have genre templates for you.
The tutorial stuff is all scripted very comedically, like a Doctor Who episode, and so it's all...
And it builds very slowly. Like, they do a good job of teaching you how to use the tools, and they do make it relevant to the game as far as the tutorials and things like that. But ultimately, when the rubber hits the road, it's like either you have the motivation to create something that other people are going to love or you don't. And I think that's where... You need, if you're a consumer trying to figure out whether you should buy this or not, you need to think about what kind of player you are. If you're a person who just plays, I think it's a harder sell. If you're a person who loves to create, it's an easy sell.
Yeah.
But I think either way, I think you should buy it.
Totally, but it also makes me wonder how important like their quote unquote launch is. It's been around for a long time. You've been able to buy it for a long time. Not a ton has changed. They mostly just changed like the menu. Like like before they launched, and they added art stream. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have mostly been checking out a lot of old levels that I haven't played, but there's just like so much going on there that it's tough to be like, I understand all of it. Like, I can totally get a picture of what this looks like. But I think Dreams will be, only more valuable next month after that. Especially if like the price drops for like some like holiday sale or something at Christmas. It's like this game in a year. Like,
and what if Media Molecule doesn't end up supporting this with some crazy game that they've built in the tools? It's possible. I mean, they could keep updating it. Will it happen?
Yeah,
I don't know.
If you get some, if there's some like Dreams, or some like special PS5 with games package and just comes with Dreams and only for like $10 extra.
I mean, think about packing in Dreams with PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. Or just doing, having a free for life PS Now month or something. Where it's the PS Now game. All you gotta do is download it and you have it.
And you have it. Yeah. Because this game probably is ultimately going to live or die on the user-created content. Let's be honest. It's not going to live based upon people being able to create.
But that's
it's going to live based upon people being able to consume the stuff that the other hard workers create.
But that's the beauty of it, is because we were talking about that, with creating content just at Viacom. But it's just like you think of all the ideas and all the stuff that hasn't happened because people aren't interested in doing it. And it's just like when you have these communities together. I think one of the things that kind of needs to break down is I think you have a lot of, and probably it makes sense, like you have a lot of people, introverts that are making games and are nervous to like reach out and meet other people. And like kind of when you start to see some of those walls go down and like actual like companies like developing group, like you see a name anytime I see like Jobo Productions, and it's just like Jobo's a dude,
of course.
But when you start to see like, no, this is 10, 20, 30 dreamers that got together, to do this thing, it's just cool. I don't know. I'm more positive about the future of this game than a lot of other games I can think of.
I also think if you're just a player and you're not interested in creating, I think it'll be fun the first 2 days because you'll uncover all these goofy, like there's one where you just like stab blueberries with a fork and they scream. Like there's just all these weird experiences.
There's one where you're just blowing boxes up and you hit the triangle button and it resets.
Yeah, that's it. That's all there is.
I did that for 45 seconds.
Yeah,
and it was a great 45 seconds.
Right. There's just tons of stuff like that. The first couple days, it's like the honeymoon period.
Of course.
Then you have the lay of the land at that point. You know that like, okay, if I check out 5 things, probably 3 of them are going to suck. One of them is going to be okay, and one of them is going to be really cool. And I think they can get better with their filtering, with their curation over time.
100%. It's the number one issue they have right now. Issue, but like,
and I think that'll be easy for them to fix. I understand why they want to put a lot of emphasis on user votes right now, because I think that's the easiest metric to kind of use. But I think the more they get their hands dirty with their curate, and we've learned this with Sifted, with curating content. Like, you can't just put up everything because then it just turns into a bunch of noise. And I think if they get a little smarter, maybe hire some curators to go through the Dreamiverse and find the good stuff, not just look for stuff that has a bunch of thumbs up, because anything Sonic is going to be there, anything Mario, any of that stuff. It's always going to bubble up to the top. If you're like, I know that.
Well, it's like, I don't know. Like, it's interesting that they have that stuff in there.
Is
so
it legal?
Many things. There's like 8 Zelda levels.
I mean,
there's like 4 Kokiri forests.
Can they get away with that?
Well, they can't. I mean, all it takes is just Nintendo to call them and tell them to take it down, and I'm like, that hasn't happened. You know,
all they
like,
have to do is take, and that's right, because it's just like YouTube.
Everyone's like kind of cool with it.
The copyright holder requests, you have to take it down within a reasonable time frame, and you're covered.
With Minecraft and stuff, I think once you actually like get into like games, I don't think that's kind of the Wild West right now. I think it's what they're much more looking at like YouTube and people actually like stealing the product itself. Where it's like, oh sure, you're gonna make some. Like,
I don't know, man. Nintendo is aggro, man.
Nintendo. I mean, I'm not here to say what Nintendo's gonna do. That's a fool's errand.
I mean, they shut down that awesome Super Mario 64 HD.
But there's a Mario 64 is in there, man, right now.
Yeah,
you can play dreams. Or at least just like the first part of it, and it's not bad.
Not terrible. Yeah. Here's one thing I would say about pretty much everything I played. I didn't think any of the controls in anything I played were razor sharp.
No.
And if you go back to Little Big Planet, look at like Invisible Walls back when that stuff came out. We always complained about the controls and the floatiness. And in this game, and now you can't really blame it on Media Molecule, but the bottom line is that the default settings for controls aren't great.
Yeah.
They still feel loose.
It's a baseline, It's just it's a little
loose.
wobbly.
And that kind of extrapolates out across pretty much every game on there. Again, something that they could fix with their algorithms and their code and stuff like that. So
it's funny, even just like the default like human that you're gonna drop in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You okay there, buddy?
Yep. Yeah.
But I've seen some people figure it out. Like I've seen some people kind of cut past it and either like
I have not seen a great human yet.
No.
Some of them look okay until they move.
Yeah.
And then it's like they're all like
I can't argue with that. I got
so there are limitations, but these are limitations that are not insurmountable mountains. They can work it out. They can code the game in a way that they can improve it. Yeah. So for a launch week, it's pretty freaking amazing.
And I think for right now, there are some things, we're talking about racing games, some of the fun stuff on there that kind of lean into, okay, if it's going to be wobbly, let me make it fun and wobbly. Like there's one, I can't remember the name of it. It's like Apocalypse or something. You're literally just a triangle and you're just like flying through the end of the world. And like buildings are collapsing, all this stuff is happening around you, and like it doesn't look great, but like you are going fast enough, and it is, and like, and if you die, just you respawn right away, and so it's like it's just smartly done as like, that was a crazy 2 minutes, and I think that's like, please do that, please, people that are making dreams. It's like, don't you start one and it's like in an age. It's like I don't have time. It's ambitious, and kudos, and a lot of that stuff, of course, will end after like the first forest, and they're like, all right, see you later when I actually have time to finish it. I'm a college grad. What can I do?
So we're both basically saying buy it.
Oh my goodness,
But do you think it will sell?
Especially too because it's so console. No, but we'll get to that. Especially when it's so console specific.
Yeah.
I don't see this. I don't think Sony's treated it like that. I don't think they've.
Have you seen any commercials for this?
I don't feel that desperation there. I think this is something that Sony realizes.
You put it out there.
It's like a montage sweetener.
Yeah.
It's like
no, you're right.
It's like it's something that anytime they're like boom, 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 PlayStation 5, like you're always going to see like, what the hell was that game? And it's like, oh, that's that thing that's bundled with the PS5 or whatever. You know, like that's that fun thing that we all just kind of goof around. That it just seems like almost every PlayStation owner has.
Just has.
You know, and so I could see it like, oh, hey, look at that, it's in the top 20 again. You know, just it's still around. And just like once you, after 2 or 3 years, look at that chart, be like, oh, look at that, it's only gone up. You know, like it really just, because it did hit that point, kind of like with VR. Where like
eventually
every now
it's
and then
going to get a hit.
Something you're like, you have to.
Eventually there's going to be some game created in dreams that everybody loves. And that will be the tipping point. It's like I was saying off camera earlier about how when you work on YouTube and you're not one of the big guys, you're trying to find the hit. You need the hit to get people to your channels, and then they discover all your other content. And you're like, oh, well, everything else you're doing is great too, but you need that big thing to kind of make the spike to get people on board in the first place. So.
And if you're a Mario Maker fan, like Mario Maker levels are better now than they've ever been.
Oh, yeah,
that's just how it works. You know, it's like when you get the tools.
I mean, look at this. This is week one, and somebody built a freaking... That's insane.
It's so good.
This is insane.
And like there's rubber banding. There's
it's everything. It's nuts. It's impressive, man.
It's I eked out a win. You know, it's like, well, you know what's fascinating for me? It's a good test. I actually want to make a short list of the levels that did this. One of my goals for the review, I actually want to focus on much more community stuff than Media Molecule stuff. I have to show art stream, but like in the tutorials, but like everything else, I was like, nah, I don't want to show the other levels they made. I really want to focus on like the weird stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to try to pick one level for every shot. I don't ever want to show a dream twice in the review, because I'm like 2 weeks late anyway. But It's funny because I only capture like 6 minutes like per level,
Yeah.
and some of them I'll be done after 6 minutes.
You capture like a minute.
I'm like, this is fun, especially someone you level up, and you're like, oh damn, I just got level 2, and it's like I could sink into this.
Yeah,
and actually,
yeah.
Because I'm sure the thing's only like.
Well, it's
2 or 3
also
hours
really
max.
dry right now. There's not a lot of other things to play. It helps.
But there's some things that the production values aside, like the person developing it had a fun idea and really developed like. They at least got me hooked enough to be curious how this ends, or kind of like what. There was one platformer they called The Pilgrim that's just like chef's kiss. Like,
wow.
So, because the guy got it. He's like, you got 15 minutes? I'll make you feel like you beat a game. It's just each area is like, oh, I lit the torches. Oh, okay, here I go. Like moving on. It's really well put together. Floaty and
of course
has all the issues that the other things do. But it's interesting. I think there were like I said, there were like 10 or 15 of them that I'm like, okay, I'm not going to capture this, but I have to beat this because this is phenomenal.
You're enjoying it. Yeah.
Ruckus is you play Ruckus, man.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Ruckus is really good, and it's funny because the VO comes in from like the medics and the news people, and it's clearly some like 12-year-old kid who just
that was crazy.
Clever dude who's got a lot of time on his hands.
Yeah, I mean it was basically like an updated version of what's that old arcade game where you Rampage.
Yeah, Rampage.
Yeah,
and I think there's even like a couple Rampage jokes in there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But like,
I played
what's
that
the next
until
thing
it
that
was
guy's
over.
gonna do?
Yeah, and it's like, how many buildings can I destroy before the time? And I played it all the way to the end. I played it the whole time. So there are some gems in there, and as time goes on, there will be more. But I think right now, both of us recommend people buy it.
Space Cadet 2020. Yeah. If you have dreams and you're like Space Cadet, I haven't heard. That was a good example. A game that does graphics and floaty and that has nothing to do with it. It's just kind of what the person did. And I can't think of a game outside of Unity and Unreal and stuff like that where you could.
And there are people that just create cinematics,
movies, just music.
Yeah,
just
like somebody recreated the opening to Episode 4, Star Wars Episode 4. And it was rough around the edges, but it was cool. Like they actually managed to do like the text scrolling into space. And
I saw something that was just like a spaceship taking off from a planet, and some Robotech comes by and
just tackles
hits the engines
rocket
and flies away, and you're like, is it? It's like it's a 15-second animation, but it's amazing.
Stuff like that's cool. Yeah. And you get stuff. There it is, right there. Like they totally did.
So
it's pretty insane.
Yeah, you just get all these people together, and just as someone who's like goofed around with the tools, and I even hit a point. Inevitably, I'm going to hit some point chain where, I'm going to find some logic thing and be like, oh, God. Because I do actually have 2 dreams that I'm like, this is like a game idea I've always wanted to do that I knew wouldn't cost too much, but enough that hell no, I'm not going to invest in that. And so I'm like, maybe I could do it. And just the moment it gets down to like, well, I want to do this thing that affects the entire world.
Yeah.
How does that work? Do I have to go person by person? And
it's too much. That's where I draw the line. I can't do it.
But once you find it, like text is a great example. Like I wanted to build something that had text for the review itself, just to kind of show discovering new tools. And once I was like, oh, that's how that works. You kind of get, so like, all right, now I want to mess around with text for a little bit and see what I can do. And that's how subtitles work, and that's how menus work. And like, oh, neat. So like if you do kind of push yourself, you have these little victories. And again, it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel like something where it's like, all right, I really got to commit to this for a month, and then I'm out. It's like, again, like I just see myself, kind of, oh yeah, dreams. I haven't played that in a month.
Well, something will pop up. A game will pop on YouTube.
Polygon's going to tweet this every day. There's going to be some other.
That is right in their wheelhouse.
Blah, And so
Kotaku.
Sure, let's do it. Greg Miller's been a big champion of this. He built something like through. Oh, and just in the community focused stuff. It's like if you have. You just build a studio, man.
Yeah.
Just have people deathmatch on this desk.
Yeah, like when first I was like, okay, what am I going to build? And I was like, okay, I'm going to take the Sifted logo, I'm going to lay it down flat, and I'm going to make a maze out of it, and I'm going to make a shooter. And then, I got literally an hour and a half into it. I was like, see ya.
Everybody, all the guys were making fun of me because I'm like, Dream's really intuitive. And they're like, what have you built? And I'm like, I've started building a lot of things. And they were like, yeah. And I'm like,
have you finished anything?
It's like I'm not interested. It's because that's what hits you in the face. You're like, oh.
It gets to the hard part, basasically.
This takes a long time.
Yep. So anyway, that's Dreams.
Give it time.
2 thumbs up from the both of us. We both say buy it. It's cheap. You'll be able to play it for the rest of your life, honestly.
Relative to what you get. And again, as you're just a PlayStation owner, it's like, this is coming to PSVR, and then, oh boy, that'll be fun. This to actually be in VR with the controllers. And just like,
Yeah, this actually dovetails nicely into our next topic, which is January MPD. We are going to talk about the games that sold really well in January, but really what I want to discuss here is the transition from Generation 8 to Generation 9. And the reason I said it dovetails from the last topic is because that's what's going to happen with Dreams. So I said, you're going to be able to play this forever. I think there's a lot of people right now wondering, am I really going to be able to play these games forever that are on my PlayStation 4 or my Xbox One? Are they really going to be backwards compatible? So maybe some people are reluctant to pick up Dreams because they're like, wait a minute, in 5 months I'm buying a PlayStation 5 and then it's gone. And then, no, I mean, in that case, I think Dreams probably will work on PlayStation 5, although I don't think it's going to be as easy as you might think or as easy as some ports. But anyway, the evidence is bearing out in the NPD report. People are bailing on this generation much more quickly than they have prior generations of consoles. January overall spending was down 26% year over year with January of last year. There was a report put out, I think it was by NPD, where they showed that the fall off as far as people still buying hardware and software from this generation compared to what happened in the transition from the 360 and the PS3, it's almost double as far as people bailing and stopping buying products. Why do you think that is? Especially when we're living in this age where you just assume you're going to get a game and you can probably play it for the next however long because of all the way the hardware is, the architecture works now, the way that backwards compatibility is working. It seems odd. To me, consumers should have more confidence now than ever that something that they're going to buy right now will still work on the new hardware a year from now.
I think it's more about like I mean, look at the PlayStation 5, or the PlayStation 4. Like they had such a great generation. They made so much money, and then now they just like ghosted everybody. Like they just took off. They really have. You're like, well, you only have those 4 games, and it's just like, yeah, those 4 games are Ghost of Tsushima.
They're huge.
Last of Us, Final Fantasy, which is coming to other things eventually, but I think they're going to do okay, and I think that's kind of where everybody is. I think actually, for as interesting as all the stuff that Microsoft is doing, the Switch is just like had such a killer 2019.
But even it in January for the first time went down.
But I remember even like Luigi, like before that came out, it felt like nothing really had happened.
Yeah, nothing's really happened since.
Right.
The last time I played my Switch was to play Luigi's Mansion 3.
But then again, we got Breath of the Wild 2 that's probably coming out. Damiani thinks this year. No, he was like, could be. I'm like,
no, it could be.
Yeah. But you never know. And even like, I could see them. Wasn't it like within a year that Odyssey was announced and came out? Wasn't it like super quick? I think.
Yeah, I guess.
Or maybe like the first time we saw it, like the first real gameplay trailer.
I think it was less than a year.
It was not a long time. Yeah. And so it's really Resident Evil. I think was like the most fascinating thing.
Yeah.
Like 6 months, bam,
and amazing.
Like both of them,
and how good it was.
Yeah. It's like RE3's like, how are they going to mess that? There's no way they can mess that up. RE2 was so good. So just think, they're clearly everyone's holding their breath. Everybody,
but they haven't in prior generations. That's the thing. That's what's different.
Not so much as they are doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, prior generations, the year before the new consoles came out, they would sell more software than ever because that's when your installed base is gigantic. But for whatever reason, this time, people seem to be pulling back, and maybe they're anticipating that these consoles are going to cost a lot more, which we'll get into a little later in the show.
People might not be interested in buying consoles. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it seems like Microsoft and Sony are really trying to read the room right now and can't really efficiently or comfortably that they're like, we are not going first.
Somebody has to.
I know, yeah.
But why would you? I was talking about this, I think with Pachter off camera when we shot with him. And I was like, why would you go first? Why wouldn't you just sit there and wait?
I think you could go both ways. Because if you go first, no one could care the second time around. But then if the second time around is better...
But if you go first, the second person can always trump you.
Yeah.
They
just might not be able to do it.
They can always set the price lower. They can always bump the release date up. There's no advantage to going first. None.
There is... it's...
Other than
the cockiness,
getting the word out
or
there.
the bravados, like bravado. Like it's just the gravitas. Like it's just the... to kind of step out, to be the first person to show up to the party.
That doesn't translate into money, though.
Not really, not all the time.
It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
So
why would you ever be first?
It's Nintendo was first because technically the Switch is the beginning of Gen 9.
I guess. I do not consider it the beginning of Gen 9.
Yeah.
I consider it the end of Gen 8.
Sure.
Yeah.
They just they made a Wii U gamepad that didn't need to be plugged into.
Well, they've been staggered for a while now. I mean, they've been basically mid-gen now for a couple generations, so it's not out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And I think most people will consider Gen 9 officially kicking off with the PS5 and Series X.
Sure.
I think, except for Nintendo fans.
Yeah.
I think everybody else.
It's the kind of thing when you say, Happy New Decade in 2020. They're like, actually, you're like, oh,
hey, shut up. It's 2020.
You're right. I get it.
You're right.
But
You're absolutely right.
On paper.
Yep. So things are slowing down a lot. And I mean, just look at these first couple months of the year. It's been a night. I hate to say it, but it's been a nightmare getting GameFace shows together every week. I don't know how you guys are doing over on the Easy Allies
I've
podcast.
never moderated that thing before this last week. So
it's been work.
I thankfully don't have to do it.
You should be very thankful. It's been work this entire year so far getting shows together. Like, you're just scraping. So yeah, spending is down 26% year over year. Software is down 31%. So actually, hardware hasn't taken as bad a hit as software has, which is completely out of the ordinary. Now it's normal for hardware to start leveling off, but software usually just keeps going up and up and up. And here it's down.
Yeah.
Now, granted, last January there was Resident Evil 2 remake, and there was one other big game. I can't remember what it was. Oh, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh no, yeah.
And this month, all we had was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which reviewed okay, but it's not in the same class as those games. So there's some wiggle room in here for why sales were down so much. So do you think that it's wrapping up more quickly? Do you feel like that's what's happening, or am I crazy? Am I delusional?
No, I think it makes sense because I think they're just less. They're. I mean, the only thing that I don't know to confirm that is that we haven't really had like that. The Senwa's Saga, like that announcement was cool, but that's just like one game again, and we have like some game that we know in the PS5. Boy, I can't Dangerfall, Godfall.
Yeah.
And like, okay, these are fun, but again, we just haven't really had that dump. We don't really know specifically like what.
Right, and so
games might
wouldn't
be
you
past
think
launch,
not
when they're
knowing
launched,
that people
what
would be
date
like,
it is.
well, I don't even know what this stuff is. I should just keep buying games for my PS4 or my Xbox One X. Seems weird that they've.
But it's not. I mean, there's Stadia. There's there's just a lot to invest in.
Game Pass,
and even like Disney Plus, or there's just a lot to spend your money on potentially, and so it's like
too much.
What investment do we really have? How much of a person's life do we can we really take up as a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X? So it's like we don't know how much can we expect to for people to set aside to really invest in this. And like when that happens, that message needs to be so clear and so satisfying that we can't like parse it out. We really have to just like hit and do a big event. That's what it seems like they're doing.
Yeah.
So again, if we don't really get that big Sony events, like interesting play, guys.
I think GDC is when it's going to happen.
Cool. I just have to. I have no. I'm not going to waste any energy like trying to. When it's like who knows what they're doing. Who knows?
I liked your John Oliver cool, by the way.
First of all, cool.
Cool. Why do you think Switch is down in spending though? It's in its heyday right now.
With new,
it's firing on all cylinders.
Get that pink version out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't you think that's strange?
Yeah.
The software hasn't really stopped. I mean, I thought Luigi's Mansion 3, it was like my runner-up for Game of the Year. I freaking loved it. I thought it was great.
Waiting for a new version of that, but like that doesn't necessarily seem likely.
No, it did. Look, I'm not saying the sales for that were that great, but it was a really good game that just came out like a month ago. So I don't know. They're still getting software support. It's weird to me that sales would drop.
I think
or maybe it finally hit its zenith. Maybe
I think the
there.
software support, is outstanding. On that console.
It's been amazing.
Really
I've never seen a Nintendo console like this since like the SNES.
Like I'm itching to play a Fire Emblem game.
Yeah. It's crazy. What's happening? It's great to see. Like a powerful Nintendo is always good for the industry. It just always is. Nintendo needs to have a certain level of success in the industry at all times, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because they shade a lot of stuff that happens everywhere else. So their ideas seem wacky and out of left field, but eventually other people start looking at them and they take them and they're like, oh, well, I know how to apply this to a wider audience than what Nintendo is reaching. We need that in the industry. We need Nintendo to inspire other developers to take its kind of core concepts and expand on them, and in all honesty, sometimes make them better.
One shot in the dark is that they know, like, okay, we got Prime 4 coming, we got Breath of the Wild 2
or
coming,
do we
got Odyssey 2 coming. Like, I think, it's just the same thing as Sony sitting back on a lot of stuff potentially that's still have yet to come out, or like looking how much they actually did invest in Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's just like, wow, like they all have these big whales that they want to try to like land in a big way. And I wonder if Nintendo's like, okay, we have these big titles coming that we know, let's just really not screw these up. Because they haven't screwed up a lot. Like a lot of franchises have shown up. Like Mario Party, it's like one of the only times they like. Yeah. And even that was like better than the last one.
It was.
There was something like Mario Tennis. Like there's just a lot of like,
I enjoyed
fun
that
stuff.
too. Yeah.
So I wonder if like Nintendo's looking at 2020 and they're like, what do we want out of 2020? Can we really like win it? Like considering just how much people are just naturally.
Financially, it should win it.
There's not a lot.
Mind share wise, probably not.
I don't. It's tricky just because there's gonna be so much bluster if they.
They can only make so many of the consoles.
Yeah.
And I mean, chances are for each one, 2 or 3 million is all it's going to be out there.
Isn't something there's some weird? It's going to start drying up for some reason. Or,
yeah, we'll start. We have a topic later on where we discuss.
I could see Nintendo kind of not pushing it so hard because they realize that like so many people are going to be arguing about Sony versus Microsoft.
Yeah,
just go do that.
I think Nintendo,
get it out of your system.
While they're arguing, will be collecting all the money.
And then once you have decided, what console you want to buy, and you're disappointed with both of those launch libraries, we're going to drop a new Metroid, and a new Zelda, and a new Mario, and exactly. We're going to go through that whole.
Financially, I think Nintendo will rule this year.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen such a slow start to a year, Brandon, for the gaming industry?
Dude, I'm lucky I remember what happened last year because I knew there was one other game. It wasn't Kingdom Hearts because I didn't play it, but like Resident Evil, I definitely was like, whoa, in January.
Yeah.
Like, usually doesn't. XCOM's like one of the only other like Januaries I remember being like, woohoo,
where there was something worth playing. Yeah, you're right. January is always slow. That's typical. It wasn't last year, but usually it is.
Yeah.
February though,
because if you get like more than 2 games for Christmas, like you're not playing that third one until January at least.
Yeah. Ubisoft is usually good to put out a big game in February or March. But obviously, a lot of its stuff got delayed and pushed back.
I mean, again, talking about holding your breath. They just like took off. It's funny because I didn't think that was so warranted. It was like, well, you guys are beating yourself up over. Yeah. It's not that bad. Come on, I
don't know. There were harbingers there showing that there were cracks in the armor.
To me, they've been there before. Like that's a kind of that's just seasonal at Ubisoft. I think they're such a big company. They try these big initiatives and like something they don't work and they pivot.
What I would say is that Ubisoft became uninspired, and their games were actually, as far as like how buggy they were either no different than they used to be, or they were actually a little bit better. But the inspiration in their games just seems to have just dissipated. Like, I loved Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but, like, The Division 2, just whatever. Breakpoint, whatever.
Breakpoint was super whatever.
I mean, Breakpoint was broken in a lot of ways.
Breakpoint's what, Breakpoint broke Ubisoft.
And I'll say this. I loved The Division 2 for the week that I played it. I haven't gone back to it since launch week,
Admittedly, no.
I finished it and had a really good time. I played a lot of it with like a fellow sifter and had a lot of fun with it. But once like the eval was done, I never went back. So that's what I say when I say uninspired. Like, they don't get my heart into their products anymore. And I think that's what they're trying to recapture.
It's gonna be interesting to see Gods and Monsters.
Yeah.
That's
one has an opportunity.
Who knows? I mean, we saw so little of it that it's like that could be massive.
It could.
That could be a kind of thing that,
if it's a Zelda-like game with the underpinnings of Assassin's Creed, it could be like the biggest game of the year.
Has GOTY potential, and then we all remember. Oh, remember that dinky little trailer we saw? That 45-second thing
that we've ran on GameFace a million times.
Yeah.
So,
but play BGenie 2, and
which obviously isn't coming
Skull
this year
and Bones,
now.
And
they were all delayed out.
Yeah, a lot of things.
Like, they don't have release dates now. Skull and Bones doesn't.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Skull and Bones is.
I think it might be canceled.
Yeah.
We'll see. You show a game at E3 and then it just disappears.
You played a game at E3, man. That was a rollicking multiplayer session.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was great.
They had like 50 kiosks
we were all
down there,
screaming at each other,
and then it just disappeared.
Yeah.
So I feel like Ubisoft has lost a little bit of its magic, and whatever they need to do to get it back, I'm all for it.
But I mean, you even look at Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and it's just like, oh yeah, that was a fun thing that EA did last in the gen. It's like, it only took them all gen to do anything in Star Wars other than Battlefront. So it's like,
let's actually talk about
even the successes are kind of like, took you long enough.
Yeah. So we do have the top 20 games. What stands out to you the most? Obviously, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, number 1. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, number 2. Madden.
Yeah, sure.
Madden
and NBA and Mario Kart 8 are just like, there they are. And GTA 5. It's like they don't...
Grand Theft Auto 5 back in the top 5 for the first time since like a year.
Like, if you think about this, is like there's like the topsoil that like kind of gets brushed off and back into the ocean, and then it reveals like the rocks and the shells underneath. That's Madden NFL, GTA 5, NBA 2K20, Mario Kart 8. Minecraft, these things that are just like they're always going to be there.
14, Star Wars Battlefront 2, which we're seeing right now. That's insane.
No, I mean last year was Star Wars year. Last year was Star Wars year. Last year was Mandalorian. Last year was Mandalorian, Fallen Order. Rise of Skywalker. The announcement like Clone Wars is coming back. Rebels is getting season 4. Like there's always season 5. I think like there's just a lot of.
Yeah,
last
I mean,
year was the
new
grand
film
Star
came
Wars
out.
Party, all building up to something.
I'm still surprised Battlefront 2 is back in the top 20 in January.
Yeah,
that's odd.
I mean, just it is a multiplayer game, and you just never know when those suckers are going to resurface.
I guess.
When you see something.
How about Ring Fit
come back in a
Adventure
big way.
popping up at number 9?
Dude, that's got to be my number 1. I think of just,
Yeah,
on the
because
list, like, whoa.
So I went to get it,
yeah,
and it was sold out like everywhere in LA. I finally found one at like a Target over in like Inglewood. All the other stores were all sold out. All the Best Buys were sold out. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's like a smash hit. So then I play it, and I'm like, oh, this isn't all that great. I'm like, it does get my heart rate up, serves its purpose. I probably won't play it after I'm done evaluating it. And then the MPDs come out, and it's like nowhere. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, it was sold out in LA.
Yeah.
How did it not even, like, create a blip? And then here we are in January, and we're seeing that it has legs. That it could very well end up being kind of Nintendo's next fitness hit. Did you play it? Did you like it?
I mean, the thing I like the most about it is just like I'm such a RPG junkie, just in terms of like that's the thing about some of like even like the worst dreams when you get to like level 1 to level 2, it's like, oh,
that dopamine rush
stuff. So it's like it's tough to turn around. I was like, ooh, am I gonna play this? Like, am I gonna just put this in the garage and just maybe run out there every now and then and do it? As much as I do love fitness, but it's funny because Nintendo's been trying so hard, to try to recapture that Wii Sports magic.
Yeah.
That it's every now and then.
I don't know that this does it.
No, of course not. But like every now and then when something does, it kind of comes close. Then no, it's not going to be this. But,
it appears to have legs. So
yeah,
this could be a product that continues to sell well as more people discover it. Again, I didn't see a whole lot of marketing for this game.
No. Yeah.
Like, I saw a couple commercials on MTV, I think, when I was watching Ridiculousness, and that's pretty much it. Which is the only reason you would ever watch MTV.
Oof, there you go.
Let's just be honest.
Anything
else?
At all, so there you go.
Anything else? Pokemon so far down? Does that surprise you? Now it's got 2 versions. But Pokemon Sword in January, just a month and a half after it came out, is all the way down at number 12. Pokemon Shield's at 20. So probably overall, that probably puts it inside the top 10 between the two of them. But are you surprised that it's not done better?
I wonder if that's the kind of thing they expect because like there's so many other there's Masters, the mobile game, and it's like I have seen a lot of ads like for that, and so like it's I think there's just so
Temtem, which is like the knockoff. It's like huge.
I enjoy Temtem.
You been playing it?
I did play a little bit of Temtem. But yeah, Pokemon's interesting because they have the DLC that's coming too. And so, like, those are going to be probably 2 spikes. They're going to happen.
For sure.
One's in the summer, and the other one's, like, a month away or something. Like, it's just around the corner. So I wonder if those are expected in terms of, saving their steam for, like, actually pushing when they have these other big events. But it's just, like, man, I just finished streaming Pokemon Silver. I feel like I cannot get away from Pokemon. Pokemon's not something where it's just like, wow, people aren't talking about Pokemon anymore. It's like, I didn't get that memo.
How did you like Sword and Shield?
Sword and Shield's funny because it's one of those things.
Which should you like better, Sword and Shield or Let's Go?
Sword and Shield. I mean,
did you?
I didn't finish Let's Go. Let's Go was fun, but I didn't play any Pokemon game until I played Red 4 years ago, like for a feature that we did at, and I've just been kind of stuck with the franchise ever since because I love RPGs. I liked it a lot more than
How had you never played one?
That's why it was special. Like going back,
that's crazy,
dude. Not even a GT, not even for a countdown.
I know,
nothing.
That's nuts.
I never touched it. Not even held a Game Boy with it in the cartridge, with it in the slot. Yep, never in my life.
Wow.
Because I just thought
the whole world is opened up.
I didn't really realize there was a different. I thought the card game was a part of the RPG. Like I just had a lot of really weird misconceptions about it. I was like, oh, there's a story.
No,
and Kyle's
it's
like,
just
that's a
turn-based
role-playing game,
RPG.
dude. Like, oh, cool.
That's great. I wish I could find a franchise like that is really good that I never knew about.
We did that show, and people are like, "Do it again." And I'm like, "Dude, that's an anomaly. There's no way that I would love this much. That I would clearly be like, whoops.
Yeah.
Like,
how did I screw up?
If I just didn't have that friend that like, and to give my old friend Tadashi Kitajima credit, it was him who like had Final Fantasy VI on the Famicom and was like, "You are effing playing this." And I was like, "Oh, whoa," like
you need that.
So every now and then you do have that thing where your friend is just like, you have to. Jeff Groats is like, Halo, Xbox, you're buying it today. I was like, oh, I wasn't planning on getting an Xbox, but sure. And, just like,
and then you're like, now I get it.
And that was twin stick shooters, not twin stick necessarily, but
dual
just
sticks.
that whole,
Yeah.
And so that just like launched me down that. So I enjoyed it. I played all of it. Again, Temtem, I actually checked out and like did enjoy. Like it's kind of fun to get on the ground floor with something like that with early access. What I would call a good game, definitely not.
What, Temtem?
No, it's Pokemon Sword and Shield.
I wouldn't either.
Especially having played Red so recently and then now this, and it's just like
I actually liked Let's Go more than this.
Holy cow. we're still not doing some of this stuff, you know, like Temtem doesn't have to do a whole lot to like break new ground as far as
because they've been doing the same thing for like 30 years.
Yeah, Pokemon would be doing. And you know, it's so funny, Shane, is like being in GT was so interesting because I did voiceover so many reviews, and I took a break from Superman Returns on the Xbox 360 to GTA 5 right at the end of the gen. I don't know if you remember when I did GTA 5. I hadn't reviewed something in a long time because I just did retros and so I did features. That was really fun. So like, you know, actually getting back into it. So like during that time, this like 2-3 year gap when all I'm doing is getting scripts. And I remember every time a Pokemon game would come out, I'd get the script and be like, oh, come on. You know, like people would be so harsh.
Well, you get it from me.
Did you review them? Yeah. I remember you were just like, come on. Like,
I reviewed all the Pokemon games at GT.
Like they're not really like innovating. And I was just like, wow. Shane's being really harsh on Pokemon, and now I'm in the world, and it's like, no, dude.
He's totally right.
But it's the same thing. Pokemon makes me, I mean, it is Nintendo, but it also reminds me of Nintendo, where it's just like, hey, Nintendo, stop doing that. And then you just see how many billions they have. All right, never mind.
Although this appears to not be selling quite as well.
It's the best-selling Pokemon game ever.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It had the best.
So basically,
it had the best opening of any Pokemon game.
So basically, everybody just bought it.
I think it's the
one.
number one Switch title, and Pokemon at 96 billion, I think is the most profitable media enterprise of all time.
Wow.
I've been obsessed with.
It's crazy that it's fallen.
It came up on the podcast and we talked about it. But that, again, that's the thing, is it's just one arm of this, you know, Hydra.
Yeah.
It's just like they just are still consuming. I mean, there are people that you know, for them Go is the daily thing. You know, it's just something that's like such a big deal. And I see that get updated all the time. But
I also haven't played that since like the phenomenon.
Who has the time? You know, like Andrew Goldfarb. That's about it. But I kept having that moment again and again, probably about 50 times when I was playing this, because I wasn't reviewing it, but like I knew I had to speak about it to our community, where I was like having a blast playing this, can't stop playing it. I hate so many things that they did about the development. I am not into the story at all. In fact,
the story was bad.
It frustrates me at certain points, and I cannot stop thinking about they could have done this better. They could have done this better, and that gets tiring. You know, like when you play a game, you're just like. Ugh.
And then 50 hours later,
even like I don't know, Greedfall I didn't play until this year. Actually, I didn't play until January.
That's a hidden gem.
That's my jam.
Yeah.
And there were so many problems with that game, but I at least kind of settled more into like, okay, I can get a sense of like what the developer does and kind of where they decided to cut corners in the sake of like getting this massive world realized.
Yeah.
But like this is like this the number one, they're the number one people. They've made this game 12, you know, even more than that with remakes and everything else. Come on, guys.
Well, then they try to incorporate sort of a pseudo open world in this, and then
which is appreciated and fun as hell to run around.
Temtem comes out, and you're like,
yeah.
You're like this little team of 10 dudes.
Well, the major thing, you know, Temtem has like quests, and it's like, was that hard?
Yeah, is it that hard?
They actually have like interesting, dynamic conversations you have with people that live in the world, and you're like, I can't speak to the whole franchise. I have now played and completed 4 of the mainline Pokemon games. None of them.
That's
had
enough.
But, you know,
that's enough.
One had it in a fun, you know, Final Fantasy 1 on the NES kind of way, where you're like, oh, that was a satisfying adventure to go through, and the rest of these are like,
have you played Black and White yet?
No.
Oh, that's the best one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I play. Everyone's got their fave. I played, Red and Blue, Silver, Red, Silver, which I just finished, Sun when it came out, and played and then, you know, just Shield specifically, and then a little bit of Let's Go. Probably got about halfway through the campaign. But I just played Red 3
Let's
years earlier.
Go more than Sword and Shield. I
had
liked it. It was simplified. Like the ways that they complicate the game in this, I didn't think that they needed it. It's
Let's Go is the world of Red, which doesn't try to sell itself as anything more than just a happy, jolly world.
Yeah, and it's the original 151, which are the only Pokemon I give a crap about, really.
Yeah, the icons, looking better than ever.
Yeah, I don't need all the other ones.
But it's sugar, man.
It is. I played it for 50 hours.
You eat a sugar cookie, and somebody's like, "Is that the best sugar cookie of the year?" And you're like, "No, but can I have 5 more?"
Yeah, but I still love sugar cookies. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Generation 9. We've already kind of touched on this a little bit throughout the course of our other discussions. But because I never get to talk to you about video games anymore, I wanted to talk about kind of the bigger stuff that's going on right now. And really, there's nothing bigger than the impending launches of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. What a lot of people believe may be the final generation of consoles. Pactor's been beating that drum a little bit. To start, how do you
I got to catch up on some Pactor, man.
Okay.
I missed that.
But to start, how do you feel about that? Do you think that these might be the last consoles?
I don't know. Yeah, it's tough to predict tech. it's like, because
that's not really our wheelhouse either.
Yeah, I can kind of predict what, once we have a product and once I see like specifically how people are marketing it, like I get more focused after the fact when someone's like, okay, this is the thing that we're trying to make, and then get an understanding of what that product is, and then I can like step back and be like, I don't think you're selling this the right way. The Wii U is a great example. You're like, what are you doing? It's like nobody was like, oh boy, this is gonna be. We were all kind of like waving our arms, like no, and it didn't work out. No. And so it's like sometimes we actually are. Sometimes we actually are right.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this. I think it less now. I definitely thought that was going to be a point, but it's like you look at what Microsoft is doing. I think they're trying to model it much more over like Apple and Samsung, where they're just like, hey, you come to us for tech that lets you play games. Don't worry so much about like, hey, it's another gen starting. It's like, we're going to keep pumping out all sort of wacky versions of this Xbox Series thing. At least that's kind of what it seems like.
Yeah. Because there's going to be like Xbox Series S and blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And Plus and XXX.
Yep. It's going to get just as confusing as it is already.
And, I think that's smart because you see the way games are changing with just all sorts of different wacky, pricing models, from like free to play stuff that's actually like pretty damn good, now, and to stuff that has like varying pricing structures, early access, where there's like different, like Kickstarter, like there's all these different ways that you can jump in and invest different things to get different specific experiences.
There's a lot of different doorways now. There's a side door and there's a back door.
Right.
It's kind of like how websites change when social media started. So it used to be, I'm sure you remember, at Game Trailers, the homepage of Game Trailers just got hammered.
Yeah.
Every day. They just came to GameTrailers.com, and that's how everybody got there. As social media started happening, and we had all these hooks out into social media, suddenly they're coming in from like all these different directions, and what was on our homepage didn't matter as much anymore.
Yeah.
It was more about what's on every page.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody comes here and gets, for this one video, how do we get them hooked so that they stay and keep watching videos, and then watch one of our reviews, and then watch one of our previews, and then watch Invisible Walls, blah, blah, blah. It changed everything. And that's what's happening with games right now. The access point, to me, is being diversified. There's not just this one point of entry now.
Yes.
And there's just it's like tentacles. There's all these different ways that you can get to the center. And I think that's why a lot of people think that maybe this might be the last sort of traditional console generation, maybe.
I'm not surprised that Microsoft is shaking it up, because they've had like a complex about their naming convention, ever since they first started out, where they were like, we can't call it the 2 because they got the 3.
Right.
Like, nobody cares, dude.
They don't.
Nobody cares, dude. If you have good games,
you're worried about the wrong stuff.
Nobody cares, But just the PlayStation 6 is just so sexy. Just how do you not the PlayStation 6? That's already so built in. They've invested so much to try to make that happen. And they're finally at that point. I think they still got some more milk to get out of that cow. But it's certainly not going to be traditional. And like you said, I think that's like the greatest way to sum it up, is there's just going to be so many different price points and access points. And Microsoft's made some crazy decisions, this year that have worked out pretty good in terms of like how much free stuff they're willing to give their fan base.
When does that end?
Holy cow! Like, looking at all the games that are coming to.
I mean, just giving away Game Pass for $1 for
that's
like 3 months.
The primary
it's
thing.
insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. Again, you look at like the weirdo.
Where are they getting their money back?
Titles they're adding to Stadia, and it's just like, Microsoft showed you how to do this. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's what's happening with these consoles and services now is that they're turning into like video streaming services like Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah.
All these services are going to have to compete for exclusive content. Yeah. We were having a discussion earlier about Netflix before you got here, and I was talking about how on last week tonight on Sunday he made a crack about Netflix, and he was saying, or Netflix, or looking around for 40 minutes and finding nothing to watch and closing it. And I was like, you know what? That's kind of what Netflix is for me right now. Like, because all these different services are locking down exclusives on content. And so, all the Disney stuff left Netflix. And so everything is getting spread really, really thin now, which to me, it makes it harder to start committing to these things. But that's what's happening with the game streaming services now. They're going to be competing for content. Who is going to spend the money to get the exclusive on Cyberpunk? We already know that. Stadia spent the money. That's a big deal. Think about that.
Yeah.
So right now, we don't know what Amazon's streaming service is. It's coming. We don't know what it is yet. but you're going to compete with them. You're going to compete with Sony and PlayStation Now. You're kind of competing with Xbox, with Game Pass, but definitely with xCloud.
Yeah.
Then you have GeForce, all these.
Yeah.
There has to be content to support all of these, and there just isn't.
And it's so hard to get, like, people that are in for a lifetime. It's
Yeah.
like even I think that the biggest shuffling I do is for like a Netflix or Hulu or HBO. It's just like monthly. I'm like, do I still need HBO?
Yeah. I almost cancel Netflix.
I don't think I do. Yeah. But then I'll get it back.
Yeah.
Then something else will come back. Like
that's a good thing. Most of them don't have contracts.
HBO had like 11 trailers that all cracked me up, all of them that were like, okay, we know Game of Thrones is over.
Yeah, they made fun of it. They're like, please don't leave. We're screwed.
But that's smart.
It is smart,
to lean into it and just to know like, hey, you'll be back. Irishman was huge for Netflix just in terms of like I've seen it, so like it works or it
I made it about halfway through.
And Disney Plus was huge for me. It was crazy to go back, and I was like, I didn't think anything could tear me away from Netflix because Netflix just fit. It wasn't like, it's
Disney Plus is in your wheelhouse, Brandon Jones.
Yeah, it's a whole different story. But like,
that's probably all you need.
Oh God, oh boy. But I think it's important for stuff to have exclusive content, but I don't think that necessarily. I mean, with the cases of consoles, it's harder because you're spending a lot of money. But like, I don't think that I think we're the most unfortunate part for Microsoft and Sony is that people are so used to just jumping all over the place. Like you can't do that with a $500 something.
Yeah, I mean these closed systems don't make sense in 2020.
Yeah,
because they are saying no. We are going to have one point of entry to our stuff. You're coming to our console. Yeah. You're going through our dashboard and you're launching it from there. But to me, I think the big shift has been. The point of entry isn't the hardware anymore, it's the game.
Yeah.
So the game is the center, and then all the different tentacles come into you accessing the game. And now the consoles are just one of the tentacles. One tentacle is PS4, one is Xbox One, one is Stadia, one is Game Pass, and you just go all the way around. And it's the games, the products now that are kind of the center of the universe.
I'm excited to see what Microsoft does, probably more than the Series X with streaming in 2020, because then it's like, what if you don't even need the X?
Right.
You just literally
you might not.
You just get Microsoft games on your phone, on any phone you have.
Or on your
PC,
and then
you're playing all of these games on your phone, or you can just then send it like straight to your TV. You just got to sign up for the account. Like I think that's probably more likely. But I think that box is they're still gonna be able to sell that. They still sell, people,
this generation
people
for
still
sure.
buy Blu-rays, man. And I'm like, what are you?
It's a small group.
I mean,
of
nothing
people,
against people that buy Blu-rays, but it surprises me. Like, and I used to.
I won't. I haven't bought a Blu-ray in like 4 or 5 years.
I went nuts, and I wait. It's just like at that point, like
after the DVD era,
I gotta stop
because I started looking at all my old VHS tapes. Yeah. So I had like the Star Wars collection on VHS, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I just bought it again for $40 on DVD. I'm not doing this again.
And aside from that, as well, you and I have been in raw production for so long, and like I've had mini DV. HD DV.
Think about all the mediums we've gone through.
Tapes and hard drives fail over the years, and floppy, and there's all this stuff just die.
Codecs die.
And wither. And so people talk about like, when I have these online accounts, I don't know if these games are going to be there. And it's like, well, at least I don't have to worry about it. At least like there's another company that's maintaining that server. And it's not like some stress I have to go through. Like, okay, cool.
It all dies. File formats die.
It all dies.
FLV, dead. I mean, we lived on FLV at Game Trailers. Now it doesn't even exist anymore. So everything dies.
Flash is being phased out, I think. But Flash is just not. It's gone.
It's gone. It's gone.
It's
now
not
it's
like antiquated.
Like
it's
Chrome
gone.
won't let you use it in its browser because it was used for phishing scams and stuff like that. So everything dies. And look, no one has a bigger attachment to console gaming than me. I've been doing it my entire life. People who are in their 20s have only been doing it for 10 years. I've been doing it for over 30. Like, it's a part of me, but I'm also not stupid, and I know that this might be the last sort of traditional console launch. And I'm going to soak it all in, to be honest with you. If it's the last one, like, I want to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go out to store. I hope there's lines and stuff. I mean, it might be the last time. Yeah. Remember, those used to be big events at GT.
No, dude, you with the Wii guy.
Right.
That we never found.
Remember the interview I did with the Wii guy? He passed away.
I think you told me that. Yeah.
And his, like, friends and family, like, reached out to me. And they were like, thank you. Like, you have no idea the fact that he became, like, a minor internet celebrity. They were like, it made his last...
It's all worth it. It's all worth it.
Well, they were like, it made the last 5 years of his life. Like, awesome.
Of Game Trailers.
It's great. So that stuff, I'll miss it, I mean, I don't even know if it'll happen this year. Chin. Yeah. Sleepers for babies. Gamers play all night.
without hesitation. Didn't literally, you asked that question, he almost cut you off. Like,
that guy. He's ready, dude. Takes time. There are so many prophetic statements in that. If you could ever find my interview,
we'd be talking like on invisible walls, like we're preparing for something or talking about top 10s or something like that, and we'd just be like, yeah, what the hell's happened with that game? There'd be 6 seconds of silence, and then like Brooks would just be like, takes time.
Yeah. If you could find my interview with the Wii superfan on YouTube,
is it on YouTube?
It's there. It's got to be out there somewhere.
Oh, don't say gotta be, because then it's not. If you don't know for sure, dude, some of that stuff.
I know. It's
Trailer
it's
Academy.
Gone.
Whoops.
A lot of stuff.
I had a whole
gone.
show. I was like, oh damn, I didn't put that anywhere. I thought that would.
A lot of that stuff is lost. Yep. But I think it is out there. Look for Wii Superfan on YouTube, and it's me interviewing this guy outside of Target on the night of the Wii launch.
No offense, Shane. Best work you've ever done. I mean that the best way.
I'll take it. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit more about the details of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Potential cost. So Digital Foundry this week did kind of a part-by-part breakdown of the PlayStation 5.
Love them.
Yeah, they're great. I mean,
thanks for doing all that so we don't have to.
But isn't it funny that they founded an entire company based upon our comparison videos that we created?
Yeah. Which were,
I don't think people even realize that
do.
we created the graphics comparison video.
I don't know if I was paying that much attention, but I remember.
Oh, we did.
We did those.
We created them first. And we got a lot of grief for doing them.
Oh, of course. Well,
but then Digital
Foundry. We got a lot of
Foundry,
grief for top 10s is why we did them. Yeah.
Digital Foundry created an entire business around our graphics comparisons, which is kind of awesome when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. But they actually,
But then, of course, they went way beyond ultimately. But that's how they got started, was just doing comparisons. So anyway, they did a feature on the PlayStation 5. They parted it out, and they basically are saying it's going to be at least $500. If that's the case, do you think it matters? It's not $599 US.
I think it matters for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just what everybody, I don't know. I think there's pluses and minuses. There's like, as silly as it sounds, there's the mystique. Ooh, $500. Like there's the.
Do you think that's a good mystique, you mean? People are like, oh, that's top shelf stuff. It's $500.
I mean, compared to a lot of other tech that you can buy, I think it makes sense looking at the numbers and why the numbers are that way. I think that's not like completely shocking and surprising. But I just think we need to get out ahead, not to push it aside, but I think we just need to get out ahead of all of this and really talk about what are we talking about? What are these systems? What are they going to do? Before we even say if that's too much, if people are willing to spend it, what games are going to be on this thing? I just think
there's certainly a price point where you hit it, where no matter how awesome it is, not everyone's going to buy it.
Sure, I think that's 600 because that's a meme, for Sony. That's everyone will.
But you don't think 500? You think 500 you can get away? I mean, Microsoft didn't get away with it. They did pack in Kinect.
I just think I think you can sell 500. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do it. I don't know if Sony will do it. I don't know if that's what they have planned.
I mean, no matter what, both of them are going to sell every console they make.
Yeah.
They could sell them at $599, and they'll still sell every one.
They have to have... I'm so fascinated that Microsoft did come out and say Xbox Infinite's going to be a launch title for the Xbox. It's like, well, you guys got to do that.
Yeah,
you cannot go back on that.
But how did you feel about him saying
Halo
that...
with Nuke Xbox again?
Yeah, that's huge.
Uh-oh.
But how did you feel about him saying that there won't be any Series X exclusives for the first couple years? Things that you can only play on Series X.
Because that's concerning the PC mostly, right? So I think that's just kind of a technicality. I think there's still some stuff that we'll more associate, obviously, with Microsoft than we do Sony.
No, I'm talking about internally, first-party exclusives from Microsoft for Series X. There won't be any for the first couple years that are only playable on Series X, meaning that they push the hardware so hard that they're not going to be playable on older consoles.
I wonder if that's kind of how he put the cart in front of the horse a little bit when he talked about all the developers that they acquired, and it's like, oh, that's exciting, but we're not going to see that stuff for a long,
I
long
think
time.
we will see some stuff, but I think their first batch of games are going to be also for Xbox One, in addition to Series X. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. Yeah, again, it's just they got to balance it.
Yeah,
you got to balance it with
because traditionally you rely on those exclusive games to move the hardware.
Right.
So Halo Infinite comes out, your example, and people don't have to buy a Series X to play it. They can play it on their Xbox One X, which by then you can probably buy for $250, and Xbox One X still looks damn good. That is still a beastly piece of hardware.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of games you probably haven't played on it.
Right.
So
I don't know. I mean, do they care about selling the Series X? Does it matter?
it doesn't. You can make the case that they don't with the whole series angle. You know, it's like it's an option. You know, it's like it does kind of have that vibe. So it's gonna be interesting to see how desperate.
Again, I think it's a case of the game becoming the center of the universe.
Yeah.
It's not about the hardware anymore.
Yeah.
It's about the game, and now it can go to Series X. It can go back all the way to the base Xbox One. Although I just played Disintegration on the base Xbox One, and that was not a good experience. So I'm a little curious how that stuff is going to work out now that I've kind of experienced something being scaled down for those old consoles. But we'll take them at their word for now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. And maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, though, because what's going to happen at the end of the year is there's going to be news reports that say PlayStation outsells Xbox Series X 2-1. And that stuff matters. Let's be honest.
Oh, sure.
If people perceive that one is the winner and one is the loser,
of course,
people are going to buy the winner.
I do not see the slate being clean. I don't see, I think they're still going to carry over. I think that it seems less than where we were at the beginning of the previous gen enough that I don't think Microsoft. I think Microsoft is a hill to climb to get ahead of Sony, but. It's kind of like us a little bit, just in terms of us like playing to our audiences specifically, like our crowdfunded audiences, where they're like, we got to make these people happy. We can't lose anybody.
Yeah, so anybody.
So let's make sure that we keep people, that Halo fans are like, I'm so in. You're like, cool.
Yeah.
We at least have a base.
It's like you're always going to do Easy Allies podcast. We're always going to do GameFace because that's what the vast majority of your users really come to you for.
What the hell is this video? I haven't seen this. When they
this is all go through the crazy promo, like this crazy doc that they put out for Halo.
Cool, smart.
Yeah. They're showing basically like what the new consoles.
What is the Halo Infinite can be for Sony though? That's like the big question. Is Horizon Zero Dawn that? I don't think it has the.
It could be.
Sales potential.
I mean,
People
Sony
really
has
like that first
there's
one.
so much IP.
That thing just has to launch the second the PS5 comes out.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Sony handles backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those early PS4 era games, I wouldn't mind playing them again. On a new platform with just more powerful. PS4 Pro didn't quite get there for me. In all honesty, like I'm kind of disappointed in it. I've had it for a while now. There's a much bigger jump between the Xbox One and Xbox One X than there is between the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, for sure. And I wonder, too, if that experience, because most people bought PS4 Pro as like that mid-step console instead of the Series X or the S. And I wonder if that experience might tarnish the thing as far as like mid-cycle upgrades for some people. It'll be interesting to see.
Also, one of the things this generation that I totally came around on is a lot of people were like, for example, I reviewed Spider-Man on the PS4 Pro, and that was just the console I wanted to play it on, and they only gave me one code, and so people were like, "You didn't give impressions of the base PS4, the PS4," and I'm like, "I didn't have it."
Yeah, it's
and
gone.
So I felt bad sometimes, and I'm just like, "Is that really important?" As long as I establish like what console it is. I think Control was like one of those games where I'm like, yeah, sorry,
yeah,
that sucks. Like,
I mean,
this
I can
game
understand.
just does not run well.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah,
on the standard PlayStation, and it's a really good game.
It
does not run as my game of the year from last year. Like that doesn't do the thing it's supposed to do.
And
it's probably got better with updates and stuff, but so that's kind of a bummer. That's something that Sony hasn't necessarily addressed. And
I don't know if anyone. I mean, it's a new frontier.
Yeah,
this is all new stuff.
So yeah, the talk about like, you don't have to get an Xbox Series X. You can just play it on your Xbox One X. It's like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I'll believe when I see it.
So Microsoft and Sony are saying that the coronavirus, the pandemic outbreak, whatever you want to call it at this point, will not affect manufacturing of PS5 and Xbox Series X. Michael Pachter disagrees with that. I disagree with that. He said at the very least they may have to move production to another country, which increases costs, and because they have to set up the production line somewhere else, and then the price could get passed on, and then maybe they don't get as many units out.
The coronavirus memes, I'm not ready for. I don't need that.
Well, Apple is in trouble right now because it makes a lot of iPhones in China, and the plants are being shut down, and it actually is affecting them. Like their stock went down like a bunch the other day because of it. Do you foresee this happening with these consoles? And if they do you think it will have any impact on how things shake out over the long haul for these two platforms?
I'm searching for the answer, Shane. I don't know. I don't know if I have it.
So say here's an example.
Yeah.
Say instead of having 2 million consoles for the launch window from whenever the release date is until the end of 2020, say you thought you're going to have 5 and instead you have 2. how does that impact things over the long haul, if at all?
Yeah, for the long haul, I don't know if it necessarily. I mean, you do want a sense of demand. Like there is an amount of mystique. You look at like the supply issues that we had when the Wii launched, and like that didn't hurt. That didn't stop that from being one of the best-selling consoles of all time.
Yeah.
So, like, I think in the long run, depends on like how many years you're actually spanning out. But I think that's something that they can recover from. But
do you think it might be good to have less units at launch? Do you think it might actually help?
It seems opposite of what really they want to do.
Scarcity thing.
Yeah. I think we live in. I think one of the things that's kind of negatively impacted media. I mean, it's entertaining to watch when you see like there's massive heavy hitters. You know, like Disney just raw. You just go and just try to just crush everybody across the whole year.
You have that
it's
kind
like,
of capital.
You have nothing. You know, it's like you're just never going to get that one spot. We are nestled in there. We're going to be there forever.
Yeah.
That when you have something that sells, you know, just like billions. You know, they just destroyed the box office. It was number one. It's like but it didn't break records. You're like, oh, come on, you know.
So you can't break a record every time.
So I could see at the end of the day, Sony being like, if the PS5 sells less than the PS4 did in the first 3 days, like that's very bad. Like we really need to up constantly, and that's exhausting.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of where we are in terms of like that really turns heads. So that's an easy thing to write an article about. Just
do you think scarcity is still a tactic that can work? Because
in the long run,
it doesn't really happen anymore. Think about it. When was the last time that you wanted to buy something and it was sold out and you couldn't get it? It doesn't happen anymore.
Ring Fit Adventure?
Yeah, exactly. I still found it, though.
Right.
But the logistics are so good now.
You can't hide from shit. I just imagine you with the fedora on at night, 1940s LA. I'm gonna find you somewhere tonight. Ring Fit.
Yeah. Yeah, but you don't really get that anymore. Like everything that I've wanted to buy, when I wanted to buy it, I could buy it. Like you don't really have shortages anymore because again, logistics are so good. They can measure their demand in real time all around the world at all times. And no, oh my God, we need to make another 8,000 to the literally like down to that granular of a number.
And how fast we ship everything's to us too. So like there's this whole misconception toward everybody of just like how tough it is to make things, how hard it is to ship things, how hard it is, when we actually see. It's funny, we were watching that premiere of the Series X, and like there definitely is just this like 2001 kind of like, oh, look at that.
Oh,
it's interesting that the glorification always of just these objects that you have to like, it's a thing.
It's a thing and I want it.
It's so rare now. I think beyond just kind of like, some people are collectors. Like I know that's definitely like an issue for me that I had to get over because I was just like, I can't stop buying silly stuff because like
I stopped.
Have it all. Yeah, definitely pulled the plug on that.
Once I got my closets were full and I had already thrown out all the stuff that I didn't want.
Yeah, not to mention
everything that was left
free.
in there was in there and it's full. That was it. I'm like, I don't want anything. I can't take anything else.
The first time somebody gifted me an amiibo, I was like, no, what are you doing?
You
Get it out of my house. I can't. If I look at it, I'm going to run to Toys R Us.
Yep, and buy them all.
So yeah, I think I think there is again that mystique around like, oh, that object I have, and then I can use that to just again not have to leave the house and just order everything and have it come to me. But I wouldn't choose to have a shortage.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like go that way.
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
agree with you.
It's like Sonic looking bad. It's like that worked out. It actually gave you like a ton of really good press, like to be like, look, we made it better.
You got more publicity out of it.
But I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. What about the software outlook? You mentioned earlier about all the studios that Microsoft snatched up. We know the studios that Sony has had under its roster. It just bought Insomniac, which did it really need to?
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It's not like it was making a ton of multi-platform games. It was making PlayStation games and VR games, but it did. And so now it's locked it down.
Yeah.
So you kind of know the two rosters now. Before Microsoft made its purchases, it wasn't even close. Sony just destroyed Microsoft in first party. We went through years at GT where it was just Gears, Forza, Halo, Gears, Forza. It's just this pattern that repeated over and over. And it's continued since we've left GT. Do you think the 10 studios that Microsoft has purchased is enough to compete with Sony's first-party stable?
I don't think either company has enough resources to really do a compelling launch of a console. Just do it. We haven't seen anything
as
yet.
In present, as we sit here right now, or do you mean just in general?
Who we know that's not doing anything, what they have yet to roll out. Like it doesn't feel like, I don't know.
The timing is not working out.
I'm nervous, man,
because
they're so
look,
quiet.
Their biggest studios are about to launch stuff.
Yeah,
they're not like, hey, we just showed this game and now it could come out at the launch. Like The Last of Us Part 2 is coming out before the PlayStation 5. That's all there is to it. Ghost of Tsushima most likely is coming out before the PlayStation 5. So a lot of its biggest studios are about to, pardon my French, shoot their load. And then it's 3-4 years, depending. I mean, for Naughty Dog, at this point, it could be like 5 or 7.
Yeah.
I mean, they're turning into Rockstar at this point with how long they're taking to develop games. So you're right. The timing, at least in my perspective, for PlayStation really isn't working out. You got Guerrilla, as you brought up.
Oh, I mean,
Horizon,
to me, that just makes so much sense.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn 2. That should be the game that we should expect to see at launch of PlayStation 5.
At launch that day.
Right.
Day of.
Day and date. Exactly. And that might be enough to launch a console.
That's the game you're not playing on PlayStation.
That would probably be the best PlayStation launch game ever. Because that bar is really low.
I had a Spider-Man. Ooh, I don't know. Isn't Spider-Man the most? What's the biggest PlayStation launch?
The Marvel Spider-Man came out in the middle of the gen.
I thought you just said the biggest PlayStation launch of a game.
No, launch games, as in the games that are available on launch day.
You said launch of a game.
PlayStation launches are typically pretty crap.
Yeah,
for software.
Well, launches in general, it's tough to do. I think SSX on the PS2. I think it was my favorite game I had when when a console came out.
Yep.
Or
Third
when a
party
console came out.
Yeah. But Microsoft looks like it might be in a little bit of a better position because it did acquire these studios around a year ago. By the time Series X comes out, they'll have had a couple years. We're already seeing Bleeding Edge, which looks like it maybe could have been a Series X game, but now it's going to come out for this gen. Ninja Theory has already shown Senua, the sequel to Senua.
Which definitely is going to be like an award potential. Like it just has all that.
Yeah. Will it sell?
It has the smell around it.
Will it sell?
Yeah. How much is that going to lean on you knowing that?
To me, that's not a hardware mover. That's not a game that people see and they're like, I need to buy a console to play that. It's just not. So, despite that, I do think Microsoft.
It's a tech demo feature, but
like
right.
I'm looking at the first year of PlayStation 5, and I'm not seeing a whole lot, to be perfectly honest with you. But the first year of Xbox Series X could be pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. You're going to have Halo. Obviously, that is also playable on your old gen. But you have, 9 studios now creating exclusive content just for you and PC. All those purchases should pay dividends right around year 1, year 2 for Series X. I don't know that I see that window for PlayStation 5 right now with its current stable of developers.
All that is they're a magician, man, and I'm just like looking at that top hat like something's gonna happen.
Has to, right?
Like cool. Can't wait to see what he does there.
Do you think that a PlayStation console just on its own is good enough? I mean, it has been many times before.
Of course. Again, because there's just that excitement, that drama
mystique
around the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
It's like the Super Bowl. It's just like, even if you totally botch it, it's still going to do a certain number.
Oh, yeah.
Just based on
they'll
momentum.
Sell out. I think both of them are going to sell out. They'll sell as many as they can make. And I don't think they're going to make
the bombs could drop
much.
And we would all be Fallout irradiated in line at Best Buy. We've just done it too many times.
Yep. What about the hardware itself? Do you think that they are concentrating on the right things? Should it just be more teraflops and more RAM and better CPU? Or do you like sort of Nintendo's approach where it takes a holistic approach to platforms and looks at the controllers and the interface and everything?
Sure. I think we are the less, what is this? Is this the,
this is Godfall.
Godfall? You're right.
Yeah.
I think they just need to, I think it's one of the most depressing things for me about Sony, what they've been doing lately is like PSX was the best. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting for them to have their own event and their own games. I remember like you go to E3 and everybody's just like on their phones, and then you get in the Nintendo line and like everybody's talking. They're on their Switches and they're all, and like that's what PSX feel like is just the Nintendo booth at E3. Because I remember I was like in line and guys were like debating their favorite Final Fantasy game and like they're all playing Vita. And it was neat to be like among the fans. The energy was just, everyone was happy there and to check out stuff, even if it took forever like to get in line and go check that stuff out. And so like people need to play this stuff. Like we need to move the conversation along from like looks good to like is good. I played
I think The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be at PAX, right?
Didn't they just leave PAX? Or the game's still going to be there, but they're not going to be there?
I think they're supposed to be a playable demo of the game.
But they just left PAX East.
Oh, they did?
You haven't heard that?
No.
Because of the coronavirus.
No way!
Yeah. That's like right now. That's like on the drive over. I think
No way!
I checked my phone before I took off, and they were like, we're out. We're not going to PAX East because of the coronavirus.
They bailed!
Yep. I haven't read enough to know that like literally there's going to be no like the booth is going to be just like carpet.
I mean, have
like,
they proven that PAX has the coronavirus?
I mean, Boston has many viruses.
Yeah, well, it's a big city.
And just cons in general, or
So they're just like, we can't risk it.
Just saw that headline.
So basically, they're like, we can't risk it.
8-year-old.
We're about to crunch and finish this thing, and we can't risk it.
Yeah. From what
Crazy.
But
that's insane.
Yeah. But again, they're just another, I feel like the last 3 weeks, it's just like, and this person won't be doing this.
Yeah. No one's doing anything. Everyone's not doing something.
Keely's not going E3. Yeah. Blizzard's not on GeForce. Happy 2020, everybody.
Well, thank you.
But that's the thing is like you need to, it's funny because you talk about like lifestyle and stuff and like, boy, wasn't that the Xbox One? They were like, you can plug it in your TV and like none of it, that didn't move the needle at all. And so it's like, I think we just got to know what projects we're going to be excited about, what big games are going to be coming to this system.
As we sit here right now, which one are you more excited for?
Which system?
Yep.
When I'm excited, if the past follows the future, I always zigzag back and forth. Where like I came into, like I was a huge Nintendo guy, so like the 64 destroyed the PlayStation 1 for me, and then was like, yay, GameCube, and then like that, I had the kind of a fun launch, but then ultimately like the PS2, like holy shit, I just played the PS2
undeniable,
so much. I still love my Xbox, and then like came the next gen, like PS3, and then just by the end, like the Xbox 360 just dominant. Like I think I own more Xbox 360 physical games than any other system I've owned my entire life.
Me too.
Playing games.
Me too. It's my biggest collection.
First console I ever played was the Atari 2600. Like I was like I could
best
build
console of all time, PS2 or Xbox 360.
Of all time, Super Nintendo.
It's not.
Probably PS2.
The two options are PS2 and Xbox 360.
PS2. The PS2 was just. I think it's when gaming most just nailed everything. Do they just kind of came in and like even.
See, I shade towards 360 because that's where Xbox Live was really like nailed.
True. We also had the Kinect. There was just a lot of like. Same with the PS3. There's just a lot of desperation that gen. There's just a lot of them just kind of puffing themselves up and being like, yeah, look how cool we are. Where I was like surprised so much with the PS2. I would play something like Katamari Damacy and just be like, what is this?
There's lots
What's
of games
happening
like
to gaming right now? This is nuts.
It's good. It was good.
The jump from PS1 to PS2 was just
gigantic.
So tasty. So I don't see when you show off a new game, you're like, look how good this game looks. I don't care. I'm not going to play any game on the PlayStation 5 at all, maybe for work. But like that, like looks good.
Just
if that's your sell, like I don't care. Untitled Goose Game won the DICE Game of the Year. Like it just doesn't.
It's crazy.
Doesn't matter anymore. Well, playing mobile, the Switch didn't care, and with Nintendo, like they're still releasing 3DS games. It just does. It's not really the way to win. Like I just don't see. It's gonna be interesting to see what games really do. I mean, look at MPD. It's just like what games can you think in 2019 won purely on visual? You play something like Metro Exodus, and you're like, thanks for making this game pretty.
Yeah.
But it's not the reason I played it, just because I played the other Metro games or, heard it was good.
It was my shooter of the year for last year.
Metro is so good.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about games media. Well, you and I have been doing for entirely too long. The last time you were on GameFace, we talked about this, but we were right in the middle.
Did I get it all wrong?
No, we were just right in the middle of like the Renaissance where YouTubers and streaming was like, it had already the shift had happened, but we really didn't know where it was going at that point. Now we do know where it's going, and I don't want this discussion to be too long because this is one of those inside baseball things where I think we care about it a lot more than other people do.
Sure. But
now that everything is kind of shaken out, do you feel like we've hit the zenith with games media? Because when we last talked, it was like, there's streaming, and there's YouTube, and there's the traditional game sites, and there's all these things, and we didn't know how it was going to all shake out. Now it has kind of all shaken out. Like, we kind of know what the lay of the land is, what type of content resonates with certain types of players.
The fact that it's hard for me to focus on you because I'm watching this guy trying to loop this thing is like, I think there's your answer, Shane. The fact that I'm like, please play something else because I'm really curious to see how this goes. You could just play this one clip, and I don't know who this guy is. Yeah. I don't know what. I mean, that's been the biggest. You talk about feeling old. man. And it's not. I've never felt old with tech. There's never been some new thing that's come out, and I'm like, why are they buying this? Even like Pokemon Go, which I'm not playing. It's like I get it. You know, like I totally understand. But like all the time, I'm just seeing like, did you hear this YouTuber got married? I'm like, who? You know, like when it comes to actually people and brands and websites and YouTube channels, just like constantly finding out new stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the biggest thing is that it's there are like, it's kind of like the 1%. Like there's just like really a handful of people that can please everybody, that can really get across the board and really just be known by everybody. And then we are all picking up the scraps, you know, like even people that are obviously, you know, thousands and millions, you know, of impressions above somebody else. We're all still kind of in this, you know.
But I think some people hit not because they're charismatic, but just because they're really good. Like this guy, Timur.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like he's not charismatic at all, but he's the best Call of Duty player you'll probably ever see.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out Call of Duty, you want him to be doing it for you because if he thinks it's good, then it's good.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it's an authority situation where you're like, well, I trust the opinion of this person. I don't really care how great their production values are or what they look like or if they're attractive or not. I respect the information that they're going to give me.
Or the entertainment that they're going to give me, or they're really good at invigorating the community, so it's really fun to watch them. You go to Twitch, and it's just like, man, you know, a lot of this is talk shows. A lot of this is somebody on a headset just like talking to the community. And like, they'll play a game in 45 minutes maybe. Like they're in the lobby, but it's just like...
A lot of times it is just a conversation.
I need to connect like to a person. And so that's what's been cool. It's kind of like doing narration where people are like, how do you do that? And it's like, oh, you like do a voice or something. And it's like, no, I just like talk because it's the more I get away from actually trying to invest and emotionally kind of figure out what the person's trying to say, you just give the brain kind of wanders and you get disinterested. It sounds like a robot, where it's like when people can actually like see somebody and identify. Yep. And so this idea of like being natural was fascinating. I remember having a job when I was at Hornet before GT started. We did a thing called Grand Slam Trivia with the Yankees, and they would have different celebrities on to just like read. They'd be like, okay, this guy was born in what year? A, 1945, B, and then, okay, the answer is D. Thanks, Yankees. And that would just go up on the screen.
Right.
But it was so much fun because I would get B-roll of the weirdest actors. Don Rickles was the best.
Oh, I bet.
Don Rickles just went up. He's like, what am I doing? I don't know. I need to be here.
That's a pretty good impersonation.
And but what was really fascinating to notice was the actors hated it. Every time there was like an actor, maybe like John Bon Jovi was one. He was on Boston Public at the time.
Right.
And but a lot of actors would be like, and you get like host people, and they were just boom, done.
Nail it.
They were just like, you could give me anything, and I would read it. And so it's fascinating seeing all these different like musicians and all these different types of celebrities and how they would approach this. And so like that whole idea of, you know, being personable and talking while you're playing games or just talking to a community is like, you cannot fake that. You can't. Like, maybe now you can go to school for that. I don't know. Like,
you probably can.
But it's its own fun kind of form of celebrity and talent. And there's some people that got in. Yeah, production values be damned. Doesn't matter. You're just hanging out in my room with me, and I'm making more than, you know, somebody who was like a mom and pop like hardware shop on the corner.
Yeah,
you know?
You guys stream a good bit. Like typically, what like
you have to be
4 days a week.
You got to stay in my life. You know, like you can't leave. Otherwise, I'll go somewhere else. You know,
how important is it? Do you think? Because we other than GameFace, we hardly ever stream anymore.
I think it's different for every single person. You need to make that decision internally of like how important that is to you. We kind of got that dictated to us.
I mean, personally, I generally enjoy doing it, but I can't just do stuff that I like anymore, Brandon. Like every minute of my time.
Well, I have to... One thing, we keep talking about this direct. Like one thing that's like an unfortunate reality about our business is, Easy Ally's business specifically, is just reactions just do so well. We were really kind of born when Shenmue 3 got announced. You know, like that was really kind of when everything.
I have a question actually. How did the squad receive Shenmue 3 ultimately?
Huber is so funny. Because Huber's like, it's so good to have it come back. I feel so good, and like got their view, and it's like got a 6 or something. Like he was like,
so he was able to see
not
it
great,
for what
but
it was.
Man, I loved it. You know, like, cool.
Did he love it?
Did
he really love it?
He'd been waiting for so long. It's kind of like Twilight.
I mean,
so
had I.
Until you get that fourth Twilight book,
not
and
good.
it's just like, did you read it? It's like in one night. Was it good? No, it wasn't. You know, like, and that's where he was with that.
Okay.
But he couldn't believe that existed. You know, he has some magic ability to just like manifest that stuff. But whenever announcements happen, like I've talked about Animal Crossing for so long. I'm clearly like the number one, like maybe like Ben Moore and Daniel Bloodworth. Like get in the ring with the two of them and like see like who's maybe not necessarily the biggest fan, but like who's the most excited about. That is my absolute number one, anticipated game of this year. Because maybe like Breath of the Wild would beat it, but I don't think Breath of the Wild is going to happen this year.
50-50, my guess.
I think it'll be announced this year, or it'll be announced for this year, but then it'll get delayed. Yeah, well, it'll be announced for formally. We'll actually,
you think they'll say it's coming out before the end of the year? Here's the title, and then it'll get delayed into March or whatever.
But and so I got to kind of put my money where my mouth is. Where they're like, all right, the direct's Thursday at 6 a.m. How much do you love Animal Crossing? Like, damn it, Nintendo! I've been called out. So you have to establish your brand. Maximilian Dude's really amazing at that because he only focuses a very specific type of couple of genres and then just assaults them. It's just he's going to be there for those things. And so I think, you have to kind of match expectations that way. But you can be in a very, very specific period. I remember when Game of Thrones was really hot, and my brother was like, hey, here's this channel. This guy only just theorizes about Game of Thrones. That's all I mean, he does talk about other things, but like this man was born to explain this world to us. Huh. And so...
it's always hard for me to rationalize game streaming. Because there's
explain it to like your relatives and like
no, not even that. I don't care about that anymore, Brandon. I'm too old to worry about what my relatives think.
It is fascinating though. It is a challenge.
I'm just rationalizing like from a business perspective, me spending the time to sit down and play a game on stream for a couple hours. Obviously, our streams don't get as many people as yours do. Like when we stream a game, like it'll be like 50 or 60 people watching. Sure. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I care about those 50 or 60 people.
Right.
And I want them to be entertained and I want them to be happy they're one of our patrons. But I'm like, maybe I could be doing a better job pleasing these people if I were away doing something else for 2 hours.
Yep.
Instead of just... And, like, the archives don't tend to do that well because it's like...
definitely less, of course.
Because everybody's playing it. So you can go on YouTube and there's, like, 8 million videos of that same exact section of the game. So unless you're doing, like, some kind of a shtick with, like, costume or you're, like, just hilarious, you're a stand-up comedian or something like that, like, I struggled to find the value in streaming games for us.
I don't think there's a right answer to that. Like when we announced like all our Phase 4 stuff around the end of summer last year, one of them we had just like literally like a spreadsheet that like just had streaming on it, and I could just hear like a third of our community being like, no, they're just like, I want more features, I want more, a look in at what the production of what you're doing in the studio, more of your podcasts, more of the analysis, more produced videos, and it's just like that just takes way more time than streaming does. We'll still do that, but it's just always a question of
streaming. You're done, and it's
how
there.
We move those pots around the burners, and we have invested more in streaming. Just because it connects us to our audiences in an interesting way. And just for me, like I started, I'm 41 and like 20 years ago, I was on stage doing musicals. Like I've been doing so many weird things in my career, in my life, just like in the arts and experimenting with things. And streaming's like cool. It's really fascinating and interesting way. It feels like Game Trailers in like 2002. It's like, this whole video on the internet thing is... This is about to blow up, isn't it? And so it's fun to like be right out of college and be like, yes, I'm good at this.
Right.
And so now it's kind of, it's like we feel comfortable on camera talking and, live streaming. And it's just like, what else can we do? It was funny. I lost a bet where I had to sing a song from Cats.
Oh gosh!
And which was like
the movie,
it's the same thing, musical and movie, and so I did it on the group stream, and some people tweeted at me or like reached out in chat. They were just like, why don't you guys like do an actual? Why don't you do more
musical?
of this? And it's like nobody's gonna watch that. No, really, come on now.
Yeah, even the person who's requesting it, if I did it for an extra 30 seconds, you would have bailed too. Yeah.
I think I timed it at like
3 minutes, a hard thing though.
45 seconds. I'm like, that's about as long as I could hold somebody on Twitch. Probably.
Yeah. I think that's been the most challenging part for me as far as moving from a commercial website to what we're doing is trying to figure out what people want. Like I can't even order t-shirt sizes right. Like, well, seriously though, I mean, it's so hard to read
knowing
what people want.
How many people are going to show up. Anytime you have to do that, near impossible.
Yeah, it's like, so, our first batch of shirts, it's like, I just basically Googled, like, what is the percentage of sizes for people? Ended up having, like, so many smalls and, like, triple XLs. It just stayed there for, like, ever. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'll learn from that. Completely adjusted everything, and now like the size that sold out the first time has been sitting there forever. Like, it's insane. And so I think the problem is like at GT, we knew when people liked something because our audience was so huge. If people didn't like it, it did like 25,000 views. If people liked it, it did like 500,000.
Yeah.
You had that scale, but now dealing with such smaller audiences, it's so hard to even listen to them and figure out what the right decision is to make to grow your business.
Yeah.
So many times people request stuff, we create a show, and then nobody watches it.
Yeah.
And then you do like a few episodes, you don't want to give up on it right away. No one cares, move on. You do another one. And that is a nice thing about this, is we can kind of jump around and try new stuff.
Yeah.
But it's very hard when the sample size is that small to make any decisions for the collective group.
Again, it's just that consistency. Like, I think one of the things, it was just like this, this player, like, you see 5 seconds of this video, you see his face attached to it, you know, here's what he's doing right now. I know that. So it's not like, if he does something weird next week, you're like, wait a minute, this is just not necessarily what you're known for. And so
I find that weird too, that
you just got to find
people pigeonhole you into, like, you should just do this, like our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's like everybody just wants a YouTube channel for one thing. Like, they want Pactor Factor to have just its own YouTube channel.
Yeah, we definitely get requests.
And so
to
if
split up our
Pactor
channel into many
Factor,
things, and
if we publish something else, we'll get comments. This isn't Pactor Factor.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you didn't subscribe to Pactor Factor. You
That's
subscribed
why,
to Sifted.
Yeah, that's why Game Attack started, because Screw Attack became known for Death Battle and their countdowns.
Right.
And everybody was like, what's this streaming stuff with these guys? Who are these guys? And we're
Yeah.
like, the guys who started the company.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to do something else, and they went off and did something else. But it's, getting back to what we were saying earlier, how easy it is to just skip around to things. Like, you do kind of have to always have that baseline. Like we talked about, GameFace and our podcast. Like, you do have to have those mainstays so that you at least, even when you can move stuff around, you at least have that foundation, that everything is kind of built upon. But Risk is not. It's again where like my eyeballs like popped out when you were like, "What new shows are you going to have for the new year?" And it's like, "What are you doing to me, Shane?"
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot. It's my job as host to put you on the spot at least a couple of times.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't.
But it's a way, it would be exciting, to drop a bunch of new stuff. But at the same time, isn't it exciting to just announce another season of something? How do we feel with things getting canceled all the time on TV? It's just like, sometimes we want a show to reinvent itself in the new season, and other times we're just like, no, don't take it away.
Yeah, don't mess with it, or just don't mess with it.
I'll just take another season of that show. Kirkovich doing NCIS New Orleans.
How insane is this?
Still on that show.
Dude.
I've never seen one episode of that show.
Yeah,
and he's probably one of my most successful. There's really a close friend of mine that I knew before.
Derek Mio.
Mio.
So you guys don't realize what we're talking about. So at GT, we had a lot of video editors. Ian was a video editor.
Yeah.
Probably our best. Or up there at least.
Yeah.
And
the fastest for sure.
But our video editors, they weren't tied into everything like we were. Yeah. Like a lot of them were freelancers who worked for other entertainment companies, and they would cut for us for a couple days, and they go to some other edit suite and cut.
And editing's a good thing for an actor, because you can just pop around for events, and
you build
or you can
contacts,
or potentially cut stuff in your house. My
producers.
brother's an actor and does a lot of production stuff on the side.
Yep. So anyway, we had two guys at GT who were editors. Three?
A.G. Locascio,
man.
Oh,
right.
Played young Han Solo.
That's right.
In the Disney
That's
animated
right.
series.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we Marty in the Back to the Future was the main villain in the Voltron 5-episode series on Netflix.
So we had 3 editors who were probably making like minimum wage at GT to cut our videos together.
Very much rocking.
Who have become
actor
stars.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's really nuts. Rob, it's like I see him all the time. And it's funny. Like, I'll go home to Pennsylvania at like Christmas, and I'll be sitting around like watching TV with like my bros from Central PA. I'm like, I know that guy. I worked with him for 6 years. And they're just like, no.
And she wasn't in production, but Ash Birch is just
there's another one. Now she's like a super. It's awesome.
All
it's
the
great.
successes.
I love it.
Like,
I love it. I love seeing it, man.
Go get it.
That little company has spawned so much awesome. It's really great to see. So do you think we've hit the zenith? What's next for games media? Is it going to be technology driven? Because I'll say this, like, I don't know where our hype train is today. It doesn't look like it's happening.
I saw a little hype train, actually.
Oh, it's been going on?
Yeah, the hype train snuck up behind you at one point.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Shane, hype train.
But the new tech, you should have.
Everybody, stop what they're doing.
But, I mean, to me, this seems like it's going to be the next thing. Like, just technology, like the new features that you can add into streaming.
Features, sure. Just general accessibility.
Is there anything past, like, playing a game live to people? Is that? I mean, I feel like we've reached the end.
Yeah.
Doing it in VR. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't know how like brainy you want to get about that. I mean, I have some crazy ideas for the future. I think like the biggest. This is not next year. This is not the year after yet. It's just all about curation. I think at the end of the day, I think tech is going to drive. I'm just not that excited about how good things look. I mean, obviously, you're always going to get the best looking television or the best looking graphics card or something if you can afford it. Like, it's always going to be an available option for you. But for everybody else, I just think the thing that always wins is convenience. It's just like like the most ease of use. If I can get something, if I can just press a button, it shows up at my house the next day. If I can just, like, do I have to take my keys out to get my car? Really? Like just always things that I'm surprised. Like, wow, I didn't think that would be that easy now, but it's just there it is.
Yeah.
And I think like the next phase that we're probably not that far away from, maybe like 5 years, is when Alexa's like our friend, And so it's like, it doesn't matter what YouTube curates. My little AI friend's doing it for me. There's just some AI thing that's just like, hey,
running an algorithm.
I sit down and I'm just like, sometimes I sit down and I watch something, and now it's like, no, I'm just going to sit down and be like, hey, just watch, tell me. And sorry for saying that name out loud. And some people are like, no, stop. But like,
it's okay.
We're just going to sit down and be like, I don't even care what I'm watching tonight. And they're going to be like this. And you're like, that's right. That show came out, because it's like, I'm smarter than you are, dummy. And It's cool. It's cool that we're going to be anybody alive. Like, we're going to live through that. Yeah.
So basically, it's going to be AI driven.
It's going to be wild. Yeah. Just as far as how I move to stuff. And then, because you think about how much people on YouTube, how much their careers are like, when they really notice, and thankfully, again, thank you, patrons, where like we don't necessarily notice how we're being shared. We're just like something like Markiplier's like, wait, whoa, what happened? They have a series, and then just boom, it's just like 3/4 of the traffic gone. Like all these people, because they just don't see it. Like they're just not. It's not being served to the same amount of people.
Yep.
And so it's like it's not. Google's not in control of that anymore. It's these people who have this third party now that kind of gets in their way of telling them this is the cheapest way to acquire this thing, or this is something. It's not like, and the same thing with like sites like Expedia and others, like, oh, well, all right, we used to do that for you, but now it's just like, no, it's literally just this
little AI,
my PC and my little AI friend that just kind of like
in your
does everything for me, so I don't have to do it. Because imagine, that's just so attractive.
I mean, even just
so
this
wonderful.
watch, like just the voice recognition. Yeah. I've never used Siri in my life. I got this watch. I use it all the time now. Because I can just put it up and I just like, I shouldn't do it because it'll start doing it. But I can just say text blah, 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 this, and it just does it. Like convenience, as you said.
Yeah, the one thing that I tell my grandparents about, they're like, are you kidding me? Is we have an app. It's a service that we have to pay for. It's a very smart service, something that we obviously will not keep forever, but they got us suckered for like 2 years. And it basically just chronicles Milo's naps. And so we literally check the app and they're like 3:45. And we're like 3:45, sweet. So at 3:45, like he's like, I don't want a nap, and we're like, you're going to, and we close the door and he's out. The app, they just know. They're like, based on how much he slept, the fact that he only did 30 minutes before, it's gonna be about an hour and a half. He's gonna go down for 45 minutes, and like they nail it. Like
interesting.
It's spooky, and and again, it's just people had to wing that before, and so it's like again, all of these things they're all different apps, they're all different companies and different services, and there's gonna be some kind of like, it's got your credit card number, it handles all that stuff. It's gonna you're gonna get home and it's gonna be like, you have signed up for the service for 14 months and have never watched one of these programs, and you're like, I forgot I did that, because it's only like $4,
right?
And it's like, now do you still want this? Like, no, I don't. Please cancel that. Like, cool. Avatar: The Last Airbender is on Netflix, the UK now. Do you want me to, pretend you're in the UK so you can watch that tonight? Like, yes, do that. Like
it starts to learn your behavior.
It's going to get one step ahead of us.
Account for it.
Yeah. One of the big things that I hope I will not say the names, but these, like AI companions that we do have now, like the big jump is now you have to like ask it a question, and be like, hey, who wrote that in 1970? And like, it's not going to then search for it. It's going to have already searched for it because it hears what you're saying. And like, so the whole time you're talking, it's listening to everything you're saying, and it's, just like processing all that information. So when you're like, so you literally only have to be like, like if it was called Shane, I'd be like, Shane, what's the album I'm thinking of? This. Thank you. You don't have to, it's not like I understood the phrase of your words. It's like, I'm smarter than you are and miles ahead of where your brain is right now.
So relating that to games media,
you
think your AI assistant is going to be alerting you, hey, Easy Allies is streaming right now.
Right.
You want to head over there. Oh, 45 minutes later, GameFace is going to stream, and you want to head over there.
You got to make sure you're pleasing the fans you do have, and then trust them to maybe tell other people, because there's going to be systems in place that are just like, I am deciding who watches what, and there's only so much you can do.
Interesting.
I feel bad. I feel bad for really big, talented people that have like built their They're these huge, really impressive businesses around YouTube, and it's just like through the dumb fault of technology or algorithms or Google being stupid or something, it's just like, boom, there goes their bottom line.
But see, that's why we've never built our business on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to do.
It's like whatever we make from our YouTube channel is just gravy. Like that was never the crux of our business model because I knew it's like you're beholden to an algorithm that you do not have control over. And while developing Sifted, like I worked with algorithms for our curation as far as like how we deliver the custom feed. And when you work on that stuff and start thinking about it, you're like, oh, I don't want to have my financial future beholden to one of these crazy freaking things. So maybe it was a good lesson for us to learn because we just, our YouTube channel's there and we love the people that are there and who support us there. But if the money went away, it would change nothing for us.
Right.
Nothing.
Because it's that's the final thing, the thing that is still run by, flesh and blood human beings.
Yeah.
That are connected in with you because they connect with you emotionally and they like having you around, Shane. They like being your friend.
I don't know about that. We need more people who like me and being around.
You talk about the future, anything concerning technology, I'd literally just every time I just hear Arnold being like, the system went online at 12:01, 4 p.m. Just like the first missiles were fired, and it's like, we're waiting. We're just gonna play our PlayStation 5s and cross our fingers.
That's right.
The system doesn't go online. Hopefully Schwarzenegger's still around when that happens.
I think he'll make it. It's not that far away. All right, it's time to move on to our last topic of this very special episode. We're going to talk about
apocalypse.
E3. Man, is there anything in the industry that has changed more since the first time I met you than E3?
Yeah, I'll think about it over the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. But it's
not a lot. Yeah.
When there are some things drastic. I mean, motion controls. Like there's some things that are just gone now.
Yeah.
But it made sense kind of when you look at the industry. You're just like, Guitar Hero. There was only so long you were going to keep that party going. How hard? I mean, I don't know how hard this is, but it was just like, what a fun, exciting thing that everybody freaks out about and helps promote for you. How did you mess this up?
How do you
not lean into your strengths? How do you not communicate? I think one of the biggest things I've talked so much about E3. We're going to probably talk about it again.
We will.
We're on the podcast this week. There's just always something like to bring up in terms of like how shaky it's going to be this year. And I think one of the biggest things for me that I'm disappointed is just like the ESA just does a terrible job of communicating or making us excited about anything. And this is like you've no excuses now, guys. You have to step up to the plate and be honest about what you're.
They knew that though, and then last week, like more data gets leaked out.
Yeah,
like it's crazy,
come on, guys.
I mean, it's not that hard.
It doesn't seem to me to be that hard.
It's not that hard.
There's so many things about this business.
I mean, look, the logistics of the actual show, sure.
Of course not. Yeah,
the messaging part of it, though, it's not that hard.
Right.
Protecting the people who come to it's not that hard.
Right.
They're putting the cart before the horse. They're not concentrating on the right things and placing their emphasis on the right things, the things that really matter.
I think it'll be fine for a while because there's just so many companies that are willing to spend a lot of money on it still. Like you look at with Sony out, scared there for a second that maybe Nintendo might not be going, but there's still so many companies that are going to spend a lot of money on it. Once you get in there and you're in the ding 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 casino,
you don't care
it's
anymore.
Like it's the same. It's E3. It always kind of feels somewhat similar. But last year was interesting. There were corners where I would just like take a right and be like, oh, that's the end.
There's nothing here.
There's nothing.
I mean, it's going to be worse this year.
There's usually some weird,
like
controller
peripheral company or something from South Korea. Or, and all that stuff's gone. Like
not even Hello Kitty's over here. What's going on?
It's like when they said we're going to create like more lounge areas and places for people to relax. I was like, bro, that was half the show last year. Like if you walked around and got
is that what they said about this year?
Path, like there's just empty floor with people just laying around with their laying on their backpacks. It's like they don't need more lounge areas. We need more stuff that is not lounge areas. Yeah. We need more stuff to play, more stuff to experience there.
There seems no confidence whatsoever. There seems no
From who? From the ESA?
From the ESA, from the planning. I'm just kind of like, oh, they're doing what?
Because they're a bunch of dorks.
Nothing that
they
said.
Don't get it. Like
you hear it?
Well, they're trying.
Dorks.
Look, they're trying to get. I am 8-bit. We know I am 8-bit. We've worked with them for years
awesome.
and years. They're amazing.
Yeah, that's a fun crew.
So they picked the right people to come in. But dressing up the convention center, do you think that fixes the root of E3's problems?
no, there's no fixing there. That's
You don't think there's any fixing the root of the problem?
Not with dressing.
Right, okay.
Not,
yeah. I mean, it'll be cool.
Sure.
I mean, they did our offices. They made our offices great at
every
GT.
E3's been cool in some way. Every E3
I mean, I don't
to
need
watch.
like graffiti drawings on the walls to make E3 awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I need all the publishers there.
Yeah.
I need all the games there, and I need all the people there. That's it. That's what makes E3. Nothing else. Nothing else matters but the games, the people. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
The stories.
Yeah.
The things that happen when you were done, and that feeling that you're just like, you hear from so many people. Again, to bring up Jake Baldino, I remember he was like, "Man, this was always the goal for me." You know, and I remember when I felt bad when when we were planning to create Game Trailers back in 2001, and I remember it was Mike Buddy who brought it up. He's like, "We should go to E3," and I'm like, "What?" I had no idea, you know. And I probably read it 1,000 times in Electronic Gaming Monthly. It just didn't,
Yeah.
you know. It was like,
Never
there's a lot of
registered.
shows. There's a lot going on in Tokyo. I was just like, just give me the games. I wasn't that much, you know, tuned into
Industry stuff.
Into industry stuff. Yeah. Again, I came more like the media route.
Yeah,
where I
yeah.
was like, okay, now I can make videos. What do I make videos? Oh, I like games. And then,
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at this industry.
Yeah.
And so I just think, you know, you have to. It just seems like such a weird industry to struggle to make exciting. It just
Yes.
it's so
That's a
it's
good
growing
way to
it's
put
growing
it.
so fast. It gives you so much material every year. There's always something that you need to get your hands on that you actually need to go see. There's so many different ways you can package and sell a game that it just, again, you know, them like scratching their heads. And I would respect the ESA more if they were like you were saying, like they're making lots of significant changes, but like if they struck out in a really bold direction and potentially that didn't work, but it's just like I just don't see anything going.
They're not trying to do anything drastic. They're not. They're not. They. I don't think they realize how much trouble they're in right now.
I think they do. Their heads are in the sand, or
No,
not necessarily
no.
their heads are in the
They're
sand because they're
not-
probably talking about it, but they're just
They're not on high alert though.
They're not talking about it with their community. You know, like they're not opening of the doors. They're not being honest.
Were
Like,
you
they're
surprised to
just-
find out that they only let in like 2,000 journalists for free every year?
every year or just last year?
I mean, it was last year. I'm
No,
assuming
I mean,
it was a
no, because
ballpark, the same for every year.
We had to like break, windows to get into E3
Yeah,
last
it's
year.
like impossible.
It was crazy.
Like at first last year, like
That was kind of a kick in the nuts. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, it's like-
just really we can't. What? Why did this
Oh,
change?
yeah.
Like,
They
why-
only let like one person in from Sifted.
Who cares? Like, why just let us? We have appointments.
We're gonna go in and
We
promote
literally
this
have-
thing.
Well, it's not even that. We have to be. We've spoken to a company that is renting space there and wants us to be there. They have a space in their room that they have a chair they've opened up for us. Let us in so we can sit in that chair. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand what this
It's
does
absurd.
to your. If you think this fills too many people
It's
in, when we've
greed.
already
It's not
spoken
about
to the
the
company
amount of people. It's
and
money.
already
They want the journalists to pay
planned
the money to get in.
yeah.
It's pathetic that they would shut out large portions of the media to make a few $100s. Like,
Yeah.
that's just the kind of short-sighted
And we were talking,
crap.
we were talking about, like, are console sales going to really go up and down? Nintendo makes weird decisions. Is it really going to affect their bottom line? It clearly is. Like,
Yeah.
they're clearly in trouble. So it's like a lot of these things, these decisions, if I was like, well, it was the biggest E3 ever, so what can I say? And it's like, it was not. It had
Yeah.
a lot of issues. Keeley's bailed.
Yeah,
Like,
let's
there's
talk
just not a
about
lot of
that.
good
Let's talk
signs.
about Keeley. First of all, I don't think that he's bailed on E3. He will be there. He will be on the show floor. I'll see him around. I'll see him at Pactor's party.
Keeley Cam, who can be the first media outlet to get a photo with Keeley. We found him like Bigfoot.
That's all a bunch of
there he is.
I honestly don't even think that he really said that, like, I'm not. He basically said, I'm not doing Coliseum.
He said, for the first time in 25 years, I will not be participating in E3.
Right. Which to me means as like an official capacity as a vendor or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
He's going to be there. He's
He
going
will
to
not be
walk
spending
the
or
floor.
making money on E3, but he's
Right.
going to go.
He'll be there.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
but I think a lot of people are like, oh, Jeff hates it so much, he's not even going to go. Like, that's not what's happening. What do you think happened? And then I'll share what I think happened with Jeff and E3.
Gotta know what game this is, but I think I can move on. Sorry. That dancing. What console is this on?
Hyper realistic graphics. Look at those physics.
You asked a question. Why do I think he's not going?
Yeah, why do you think he's not going?
I think it's just a deal that he didn't think worked out for him. We've seen
Yes.
him move. We've
That's
seen him.
exactly what it is.
Yeah, there's just some meeting that he went in, and
everybody is taking, and he's kind of positioned it this way, in that it's not about any deal or money that he was trying to work out with the ESA. He's trying to say it's this moral quandary that he has inside himself that's keeping him from working with the ESA and E3.
That could be there, and a deal could be there at the same time.
That could be a part
I don't think
of
one
it.
cancels the other out.
Yeah.
I just think he, Keighley has taken a risk. I didn't hear this from him. I think this was just kind of commonly known. I think he actually did mention, he did say publicly the first Game Awards he did lose money on. I think at the end of the day, he looked at the numbers and he was like, okay, we didn't really turn something on this, but I think this is so important. I want to see this happen. And I think he just had a ball, putting those together.
Yeah.
And so I think he's in a really comfortable place there. But I think every time he approaches something, it's like, this might not necessarily work out for me or for a lot of people involved the way that I wanted to. I know the YouTube show that he had for a while that ultimately got canceled. That was also, it was like a GTTV variant.
It
also was a risk. Didn't do a lot of great numbers, and that was kind of like bonus round. Didn't return a lot of big numbers. So like he's done a lot of things before that weren't going to be huge for him, but was important for his career.
Game Trailers TV on Spike. The ratings for that show were not great
for the industry to say he's done it. And he didn't get any of that from whatever he was planning on doing this year. He was just like, this doesn't work out for me really the way that I'm expecting it to. And so again, for Keighley not to think he was going to get something out of spending money in E3, he's like, whoa. Or somebody pitched him a deal and it wasn't interesting enough for him. Maybe he won a vacation. I don't know. It's that to me is I've compared it to like a canary in a coal mine. It's not going to affect really E3 on a large scale. But it does mean that conversations happen behind closed doors that we will never experience that are pretty good indicators of why E3 is in the state that it's in. And I want to know what those were.
Yeah,
I want a Tom Cruise into that room.
I mean, my guess is that
record it.
They wanted Coliseum to come back, and he wanted more money for it, and it wasn't in their budget. That's my baseline guess. Is that they probably wanted to give Keighley more money, but my guess is that they just didn't have it in their budget, and then contractually it didn't work out. The way it was couched afterwards does give me a pause a little bit, because that's clearly not what Keighley said happened. I mean, he basically, when people asked him like they didn't give you enough money, he said that it hadn't really gotten to the point where they had talked specific numbers, but you still have a rough idea. You sit down and have a meeting with somebody where you're looking at working on a deal. When you walk out of that meeting, you have a rough idea of how much money they're willing to spend on that deal.
Of course.
And
especially if you're Keighley and you have that much experience, 25 years.
Right. And so my guess is he walked out of that meeting and was like, yeah, they're basically trying to pay me the same thing they did last year. And then I think he looked at that and said, and they're struggling. And so why wouldn't they look at something I'm working on? Because clearly I've been successful with the Game Awards.
More every year.
And the stuff I'm doing at Gamescom. I'm sure he looked at it and he was like, well, why wouldn't they look at working with me and giving me more of a budget as a key strategy to them improving the show? And I don't know that I could disagree with him. Like,
no, of course not.
Honestly, if his Coliseum had more money and was better and bigger, the show probably would be better. But that is my guess. Again, having 25, 30 years in this industry and having been in a lot of those meetings when I was at GT, that is my best guess of what happened. I don't think Jeff hates E3. I don't think Jeff hates the ESA. I absolutely think you'll see him on the show floor if you go to the show. And I think maybe part of it, too, is he's just like, it's not worth it. Maybe it would be nice to go to E3. I mean, it would be nice for me to go to E3 one time and not work.
Would that be great?
I couldn't even imagine what that would be like.
Let's treat ourselves.
I mean, I would like to just go to Packer's Party one time and really get drunk. Right. Seriously though, because you go there and everyone's hammered.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I have to get up at 7 a.m.
or shoot tonight.
Right.
Or shoot, get back to the
do a podcast tonight or
we're
whatever.
We're be up till midnight talking about all the stuff we did today.
Look, maybe Jeff is just in a position where he's like, I don't need it. And
no.
Financially, I don't need it. Emotionally, I don't need it. Stress-wise, I don't need it. Yeah. And I would like to have an E3 where I just do whatever the hell I want for once.
Yeah.
Go for it, bro.
I mean, but this is the guy, too, that shamed Konami like during the award show.
Right.
So he's not afraid to send a message. So it's just like, I wonder.
This was absolutely a message.
I wonder if this is across the bow a little
absolutely.
bit. Absolutely.
I don't agree with that personally. If that is what he did, I don't think that was a smart thing to do. Because it's still the ESA.
It's not the reason he did it, but it's
they are still the lobbying faction for the video game industry. Like, they're not going away.
No.
E3 can go away and they're still going to exist. Like, that's just all there is to it. So if that were the case, I don't know that I agree with his tactics, but I can understand his motivation. And I'm like, if I were him, if I were him, I'd want more money too. Yeah. I'd be like, bro, I've been doing this for you for 3 years. Like, I think I've proven the concept at this point. Yeah. I've certainly proven it here and elsewhere.
There's Ash killing it.
Yep. What do you think about the Game Awards? We probably should have talked. Probably should have talked about this in the game media section.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, has it replaced E3?
No, because there's nothing like E3, but it has.
Some people feel like it has.
Yeah, I mean, this is personal for me. I wouldn't necessarily talk about this on like a large business scale, but this is just like how I personally covet E3. There's always a moment. It's a very special moment because I've always lived on the West Side, and so on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. when the doors close to E3, I'll get in my car, I'll get on the 10 freeway, and I'll drive back to used to be the Viacom offices, now it's us, and my head will like be warm, literally be like, okay, not only was that 3 full days, downtown checking out all of this stuff, all the conversations I had, all the stuff that I didn't get to check out that I only got to check out through hearing what other people got to see or trailers for stuff that wasn't playable, plus all the demos that I did, plus all the conversations I still have yet to have, the stuff that I still kind of don't understand, the highs, the lows. Plus all the conference stuff before the show like even started.
All the prep work you have to do before the show even kicks off.
And it's just like, wow, that was so much stuff. And so,
I almost pass out. I almost just fall asleep.
In a good way.
Because it's
like a bachelor party.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, so the Game Awards doesn't, can never compete with that. But then I'll like turn on the news, just like the radio, just like the regular, like 1080 in LA that just does like 24-hour AM news station. And like, they just talked about the PlayStation 4, it actually happened. We actually broke through like the outer world, actually, hi world, we're video games, just beyond that, we're known as like
things do
the things violent for kids, and then,
E3 does it, and the Game Awards now does it.
Streaming's weird. There's just like so many different, just classic, like really boring, conventional ways to describe video games to people that aren't interested in the industry, and like. I mentioned before, I was like really into musicals. So like I pay attention to Tonys every year, and like I watch a little bit of TV, and I still actually didn't watch the Oscars this year. I think I watched like the last like 30 minutes of it. But like I've kind of like moved away from those things, but like I'm still aware that they exist.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a lot of TV people that don't know anything about games. A lot of movie people don't know anything about games.
Like most of
a lot of media people, a lot of people surrounding like technology and stuff like that are still just like wah. And so it's fun to see, Pactor and people like or we're getting there, we're getting up in it. He used to be like an older guy when I was at I'm like Pactor's age now, I think, like
when we first met him.
Oh no, I'm trying to think about that.
That's great.
But it's nice to get that kind of expertise, and it's just something I just see. E3 is one of the only opportunities every year that we can actually, because as exciting as the Game Awards are, these are announcements that are geared specifically towards the core. Like
it's also Joker, an event that happens for 3 hours and then it's gone.
Yeah, Joker coming to
E3 is a week-long thing,
not something that like the LA Times is going to write about. You know, but like, hey, some cool new VR thing or something, something that crazy that happened, or like, Keanu Reeves stuns the crowd when he comes out. That's something that Wired or the Hollywood Reporter can write about. And so it's like,
so
maybe
you
this
agree
is
with me.
selfish.
E3 is essential for mainstream.
But if you're a teenager right now, if you're just getting in later, if you're playing Pokemon Go or something like that, if you just found like your own corner of the world, you're like, dude, I was playing Minecraft. Like, I don't care about any of these big events. It's not important to me that these other people know about it. But like Keeley's one of those people that like, it is important because it does. If we pull that off,
when people see him, they know that they should at least pay attention for a couple minutes.
If we can get like the zeitgeist that Dances with the Stars gets, like just it seems silly, but
that's what you should be reaching
scope
for.
That does reap. You can reap rewards from that, and it's weird to me that we have become so isolated as an industry. There are so many people that just kind of focus on one specific thing and then ignore everything else. That E3 is kind of that moment, and Gamescom, and TGS, and the lovely little PAXs that we get. But it's just like I cherish and I crave those moments where we just like we're king for a day. It just feels so good to have that be our week.
And it's not even a week.
To literally
That's
just
the
say
thing.
Suck it to every event that happens.
Like the Game Awards, you're king for a day.
Yeah.
With E3, you're king for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that whole week.
It feels good.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference having those 3 days instead of just that one night to kind of see everybody.
So I could see there being a little bit of anger within Keeley, a little bit of that, like Obi-Wan looking down at Anakin, to be a nerd about it.
Look at what I've done.
You were the chosen one.
Yeah.
You had such a shot. So, like we were saying, like how hard really can it be to make video games boring? To not,
The ESA somehow manages to do it. And I think part of it is that it's
like Sony.
I mean, let's
all
be
of their
honest.
interests.
Most of the people working at the ESA are older. Yeah. They've never really been a part of the gaming industry like we are. Like they're not absorbed in it the way that we are. They don't get the culture of it. Like they rely on tastemakers to tell them, which is why they hired I Am 8-Bit. Yeah. So there's a dissonance with the ESA, and I think the origins of the show because it was an industry-only show at first. And I'll be honest, like, the first few E3s were really stodgy.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't really fun. Like, there weren't a lot of lights. Like, it was like...
and I've been to bad E3s, like
I
the
went
airport
to
E3.
I went to the one in Atlanta, like, before it even started in LA.
Yeah. I couldn't remember what city that was. Blood corrected
and
me.
I mean, it was boring.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's these stodgy kiosks everywhere, and you can play stuff, but it was nothing like what E3 is now.
Yeah.
So they have come a long way, but I do think that in some ways, some people at the ESA still have their foot kind of back in that old way of doing things. Hiring IM8-Bit is a good start. I don't know if they're great consultants on how to run E3, but they can certainly dress it up and make it look a little better to make it age group appropriate. Do you think E3 is dead? Because that seems to be that's the hashtag now. Hashtag E3 is dead.
You mentioned the airport in Atlanta. Like, I think E3 can rise like a phoenix. It has before. It's had some bad runs. I think
think about 2006.
They're making bad decisions, and one day bad decisions can stop. You can happen and turn things around. But like, it's in a surprising state, right now, and is not something that I'm not thinking that it's going out the door. I don't love it less, but like it's definitely, it has a trajectory that is
it's not on a good trajectory.
Unsettling, and something that I'm frankly like I don't like to think about anymore because it's just like it doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon. And
I mean, I never dreamed we'd see a day where Sony would not go to 2 E3s in a row and would not go to E3 the year it's launching a platform. That's insane.
Yeah,
insane.
They, on a personal level, for two reasons. One, it's in LA, and I'm born and raised.
Yep.
Just come on, baby, don't take my show. And two, I miss you. I miss everyone up in SF who I only see like 5 times a year.
Yeah.
I miss everybody, and so it's like it's fun to get together and
on our turf.
Yeah,
because normally we have to go.
It's the same thing with the Game Awards. It's like
you got to come down here this time.
Fly down, baby.
Yep.
But it's just and people from all over the place. People are developing games, lots of countries and lots of that come into the public conversation every year, especially at the end of the year with the Game Awards. And it's just like I never want to lose that. I never want to lose at least 2 opportunities a year where it's like we should all hang out when this happens. We should all get together and do it.
Well, we'll be there this year.
Oh yeah, totally.
Screw the haters.
It is a party. It might be less of a party, but it's still a party.
Yep, I'll still have fun. All right, it's time for our trailer of the week, and I chose this.
Bless you for doing
trailer just for you, brother.
Bless you for doing trailer.
Well, I mean, this is a part. Well,
why'd you choose this for me? I wonder.
Yeah,
not that there were lots of options.
Yeah. This week wasn't
slow week
bad
for games and slow week for trailers.
Trailers weren't terrible.
Yeah.
Well, although I should not be telling you that. I should take your word for it. But this was the most obvious choice, of course, because we have Brandon Jones here. He's a big comic book fan. And so our trailer of the week this week is for Marvel's Avengers. And I would argue this trailer is like the equivalent of a movie trailer for the game.
It's short, but yeah.
It's short. It goes through the plot. It basically introduces to me for the first time who really the main character is of the game.
Which, I think
I had not really picked up on that until this trailer.
Yeah, I think they had spoke about that when they announced the character, and it was fun because
I didn't realize
she's actually getting a lot more prominence just in the world of Marvel, across the board. So it's neat that there's a lot of synergy there. Makes sense.
And so anyway, this trailer is called "Embrace Your Powers." It's for Marvel's Avengers. Let's roll it.
That is an entrance.
I was just some weird kid from Jersey who didn't fit in.
The kid isn't human. We did this, and she needs your help.
People believe in the Avengers. We can't just sit around and do nothing. Embiggen! Good isn't a thing you are. It's a thing you do.
Brandon, I have to say, as time has gone on, I felt better and better about that game.
Yeah.
A rocky debut, but it seems to be shaping up.
Yeah,
after a couple delays.
I haven't increased that much, but I think I did start above where everyone else is because I think my expectations were just in a different ballpark from what other people. Everyone was like, they look weird, and it's like I wasn't expecting them to look good.
Yeah, Matt felt the same way.
I thought that was going to be a really uncomfortable moment. I think they announced them at the wrong time. I think we should have seen what all of those characters looked like before Endgame came out.
Okay.
Don't get through all the MCU and then be like, here's your new friends. Be like, who the hell are these weirdos? You know, like, because just getting used to different styles of those characters is like, welcome to the last 70 years of comic books. That's just how all comic books go. You constantly reinventing these characters, different styles, different ideas of what they could be. So I'm looking forward to it being
too.
different. But,
I drafted it on my fantasy team this year.
But they, that's just a solid developer that could make a game like this super good. And so I think they, and I think, especially after Spider-Man, I think they're going to be like, yes. You know, this money can come back to us. Take it.
Oh, many times over. Absolutely. I mean, it's Avengers, and there's no movies. You're filling that void. It could be gigantic. As long as it's not terrible.
Right.
All it has to be is decent, and it will make money.
Sure. Yeah.
That's all it has to do.
Yeah.
So we have a ton of questions here. This is the time to get questions in. If you guys go at Sifted Games, it makes it a lot easier for us to pull your questions out. Also, I'm going to thank all the people who subscribe via Twitch Prime. I'm just waiting for... Oh, here they are, actually. Just in time. Mitch Secor, Tomb Raiders, Not Cirque, Mike's Q, Sero Hangert, Nexus 6 Baddie, Tier 1, Novel,
Pipe Train.
Commander Fett,
Hype Train.
Sunless Dark, Mr. Six, Srockers, Gorzilla, Wampler, Don Lionheart, Rigo8582, Slagathor. Thank you guys all for... Exactly. Thank you very much for the Twitch Prime and for the bits you guys have been giving us. We're 60% or 16% towards Hype Train Level 2. The last two episodes, we actually hit the whole way. We went the whole way. It's crazy. We had a couple people who got really behind it and just started throwing money at it, and we hit it.
If we don't get there, it's my fault. I'll take it.
It's definitely not your fault, man.
I'll 100% take it this time.
Definitely not. Here's one from Tomb Raiders, and I'm going to try to answer most of the questions that are going to you.
Cool.
Because you're not normally on here, so I want to make sure people have a chance to hear from you.
Hell yeah.
Brandon, can we expect a Trailer Jones for those last two Final Fantasy VII remake trailers?
Nah.
The theme song and opening. Personally, I'm completely won over to Project right now and have to keep pinching myself that we were getting this remake at that quality. What do you guys think?
We talked about it a lot. I think some of the guys are on Media Blackout too, so it's just kind of the... And I think about like the conversation, and it would just be like getting them in a room and be like, cool trailer, huh? And they're like, so cool. And like that would, it's like... It's
Media Blackout's weird for a remake, don't you think?
It's not an interesting... yeah, this is a heck of a remake, though.
It is, but still, it's a little weird. It's not like there can be spoilers, really.
No. Well, just a reveal of something you didn't know looked like that. There's going to be a lot of doors that open, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
like, this room looks so different.
I don't get like that. People that are that touchy about spoilers actually kind of drive me crazy.
But I do, it's like you focus on one project so much for a show, and then it's just kind of like when you bring in, more stuff around. I've also just like we're getting, up to our 4th anniversary, and I've just like administratively have been focused on a lot of other things. So I'm just realizing getting into the end of February, it's like I haven't done one of those this month. I gotta focus on something. Yep. Almost did Wes Anderson's French Brigade. Almost did that Trailer Jones because that trailer was fun.
Here's one from McWomble. Sifted has spawned a number of community podcasts, and Shane has appeared on a number of them. Has Easy Allies got any community podcasts, and would Brandon appear on them?
I don't know. I know we have we have creative people. We have a thing we do every month called the Community Showcase, where we have like people involved in, they'll get us involved in things that they do. But specifically podcasts, no. It's just, I've appeared on podcasts before, but they were, obviously off doing their own thing.
See, it's
and
different.
They were fans of Easy Allies, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's a little different for us because we curate content from everywhere.
Right.
So we've had like groups of people on the site.
You're involved in your community in a way.
They start their own podcast, and then we curate them and introduce them to our audience.
Yeah.
So again, if there's sifters out there right now that want to start a podcast, we will promote it. We have a channel for it. It's called Sifted Community. Mike's Q. This is our VO guy, actually. Mike's Q. Have you checked out any of our countdowns? You notice we called our countdowns Sifted Countdowns in homage to GT?
Do it.
We did it. We already did it.
We did countdowns for a little bit, and then we're just like...
But this is your replacement, Jones. This is a guy... I had to find somebody when I couldn't work with you anymore. And he's great. Mike, he's doing really well.
Yep.
Brandon and Shane, thank you, too, for all the years of content in your own styles. It's been awesome to see you two back together. Thank you, Jones, for inspiring me to do VO, and Shane for giving me the chance.
Yeah, man.
Oh, no question.
That's a name I definitely recognize.
Yep.
Way back.
Yeah. Justin Horman. So I caught a bit of terrible news today. Do you find yourself using games to help you take your mind off life during rough times? If so, what are your go-to games? Or do you like something else like exercise or read instead? First of all, I'm sorry, Justin, to hear that. That sucks. Hopefully it's not too serious.
Something that games can help with.
Yeah, because honestly, if things are really bad, games don't do jack. I'll be honest, like when my dad and my sister were killed in a car accident,
Right.
I couldn't play games for a long time.
I imagine.
I couldn't drive cars in games.
Yep.
Like it was like I played God of War and it like tore me up because it was the whole Kratos and his son dynamic. Like it made it worse for me playing games.
Yeah.
So, but I think maybe at a certain level it could work. But once you get into like real grief,
Sure.
I think that's kind of where the line is drawn.
I think, yeah, but inevitably you are going to come back.
Yeah,
and
here I am.
And so, of course, but like it is interesting kind of what those things are, that do draw you back. And I actually find that they're not, kind of big AAA things, because for me being in this industry, there's like a bit of pressure around those things where it's just like, oh, this is something I should have an opinion about. This is something that I should, that it is relevant to my interests, where it's nice to kind of fall back on something like, again, Fortnite Save the World, or, something just Plants vs. Zombies, something dumb that's like, I am wasting my time playing this game. This is never going to come up on a podcast.
That's what I started doing, though. I started playing like Time Wasters. That was kind of the shoehorn that got me back into it. Because I'll be honest with you, there was some time where I was like, am I going to like this again?
Yeah.
Like this thing that I've loved my entire life, is the love for it gone because this horrible thing has happened? And then, like, I think maybe like a mobile game was the first one that I played, which is weird. I hate mobile gaming.
I love mobile so much.
But I think I was like bored and I had my phone. And I just started fiddling around and I was like, hey, maybe I'm starting to feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then work called.
That's why.
And then you don't have a choice. It's
Right.
like if I don't play games, my business fails. So.
Right.
Necessity ended up really getting me back into it and kind of forcing, and maybe it was good to force me to get back on the horse kind of after what had happened. So I still feel weird. I'll admit, I still feel weird playing some driving games where like there's really over the top accidents. It still makes me feel uneasy. Like I can't watch car accidents on like YouTube or like stuff like that. Like it hits me hard. But I've managed to go back and play most games at this point. So to answer his question, I don't know. Like mobile games for me, because they're so innocuous and so kind of innocent. Like I was able to start fiddling around with one a little bit, and I was like, hey, maybe I'm starting to come around a little bit.
Little strategy here and there, some surprising stories actually.
So I'm sorry to hear that something bad happened, Justin. But man, the only thing I can say really about grief is it just takes time, and everybody's different. Like. Everyone in my family after that happened, there are some people who are still destroyed by it, and can't move on, and it was hard for me for a while, but, after like 6 or 8 months, I started thinking about what my dad and my sister would want me to do. And they're like, they would want me to move on. And they're like, I don't want your business to fail. Like, get to your business and start making it happen. So that was kind of the way I made it okay inside myself to get back to it, but it's different for everybody. So good luck, man. It's like they say, tough times don't last, tough people do.
That's nice.
It's such a cliche, but it's so freaking true.
Yeah. And that rhymed.
Here's a good one. Kevin Rafa. Which show would you bring back from GT if you had the time and budget?
Oh, retrospectives.
Retrospectives?
We did them for a while, and we didn't officially cancel them because like we all got
There's
one.
so much work.
We all have one that we want to do. Bloodworth especially has one that he's been working on that I'm like, that would be really great.
Yeah.
But...
you also don't want to redo them because we did so many great ones at GT. It's like, do you want to go through that whole? Right. It's kind of silly.
Damiani does.
Honestly,
Damiani would do another Zelda retro.
I'm sure he would.
But they're just too much work. They're too many things you'd have to push aside to do them.
Yep. They're all encompassing, all overwhelming.
There are days for about 30 seconds where I will just think like, I'm just going to leave the whole thing and just start a retrospective channel on Patreon. Even if I just make like $6,000, like that'll be.
Seriously, that's enough for a month to like.
But what would I have? Like a YouTube channel that posts like 3 videos a year?
If you're making a living and you're enjoying it, who gives a shit?
You never know.
Let's be honest.
Stay tuned, everybody.
That's really all that matters. For me, it would be bonus round. I would love to bring bonus round back. Yeah. Just because it gets
cool. Many cool people I met. Thank you. All the work that you did on that, and obviously. Keely and everybody, Andrea Renee did a lot of work on that. We were at Defy Media. She really took the reins of that, and I just so many people I got to say hi to and meet, and have fun conversations with because
just getting like 3 or 4 figureheads together to talk about games for a few hours every month. It's still not being done.
Yeah, It kind of reminds me of Giant Bomb in that, like when they get, Phil on every E3, like he just lets loose.
He does.
He just really gets honest in a way. You really need to get people comfortable, and the press tours and PR events and stuff like that. So hard to just like shake somebody out of their script. That it's really fun when you get just completely relaxed or just get the right group of people. I remember when we started Bonus Round, like the whole idea was that like, we gotta get these people to argue. I remember like Pactor's first show too. He was like the Pack Attack where he's like, get ready for the attack.
Yeah,
Like, this isn't Pactor at
he's
all.
told the story about the first Pactor Factor episode where they forced him to read off a script and he said, screw you.
Yeah.
If I read off a script, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you can say whatever you want.
Yep. He's in his element.
Yep. So it would be Bonus Round for me. I think the industry needs that show.
Needs, but will never crave. It just never really blew up, but it was so cool.
Yeah, it would do 60, 80 grand a week. That's not bad.
It's not bad.
It just doesn't rationalize the cost because you're paying to fly people in.
That was one of the few things we spent money on.
Yeah,
a lot.
That
was that sucker just didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean that was I think that was a thanks to Keeley in a lot of ways because that was kind of one of his baby projects back then, and because he was doing so much stuff.
That's when I met him. That's the first time I met Jeff Keeley. Was the first Bonus Round meeting.
Because he and I would work together editorially between the site and the TV show, and so we would put together these package plans where you give us a trailer, it debuts on the show, then it immediately goes up on the site, and then our site will do this series of videos over that week or whatever, and so. He and I always worked closely on the show, and I think, we didn't want to kill Bonus Round because we knew Keeley liked to do it, and we knew it was good for the site, even though the numbers weren't there. And he did so much other stuff for GT that we're just like, man, if it costs us X amount of dollars to do Bonus Round every year to make Keeley happy, it's totally fine. So that's why we did it. I think it was a great show. I loved it.
That's what the ESA doesn't understand. You got to keep Keeley happy.
There you go.
It's not that hard.
Let's see. Emperor Dread, since Brandon is right there to ask. Oh, no, I don't know if I want to start getting into these. Will you appear as a contestant on Mysterious Monsters?
Dude, that show's terrifying. Do you know what I got wrong on that show, man? $5.99 for the PS3. I forgot.
Really?
I thought it was $4.99 for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, I got laughed out of the room, man. You don't.
Because it's a meme.
It's terrifying. You don't want to be in Mysterious Monsters. I'm done. I did 2 episodes. I think I'm. No, we definitely need to bring us more people. I don't. Ian's the producer of that show, so it's definitely an Ian question.
Yeah.
But that is a show that needs people. It needs people on for sure.
Here's from Slagathor. If E3 goes away entirely, what do you see happening to the vacuum that it creates, or has the bottom fallen out of that sort of event?
I think there are enough things that
it's not going away.
It's not going away.
I think that's what we should say.
That's one thing.
It's not going away.
In the worst case scenario, life finds a way. We'll all just focus on something else. Gamescom is huge.
If any of the people watching this show had gone to E3 in 2006 and saw what we went to, they would not be saying right now that E3 was going to die.
We also just need that pre-summer, whiz bang something.
Yeah.
We just need to. I think it's important for even if it completely went away and the LA Convention Center didn't have an event at that time, end of May, beginning of July or beginning of June would still be fun.
Yeah,
it would still be like
absolutely.
a lot of announcements.
Yep.
So it'd still feel like this is the time to do these things.
Here's one from Frederick360. Currently, Sony and Microsoft are playing chicken with console price. We were talking about that earlier. But what is Sony going to do if Microsoft saves the price announcement for Gamescom? Or is that even feasible? Yeah, we were talking about this. It's like, who's going to go first? Why would you ever go first, announcing your price and your date?
I don't know. Yeah, I think Microsoft is maybe the one that can't wait forever, and I think Sony's just like...
Why can Microsoft not wait forever?
Because just Sony's in a more comfortable place. I think.
As far as like position in the market?
Yeah, just
returning customers.
Microsoft's really been doing a great job in making their specific fan base, happy. Again, like somebody made a meme the other day about like everybody mad at Nintendo. They haven't done a direct, and everybody mad at, or they want to Switch Pro, and everybody mad at Sony because they haven't announced stuff yet. And like Microsoft fans they're doing all right. Like a Game Pass, they're pretty.
Yeah, they've been getting good.
They've been treated pretty well.
Yeah, there's been a lot of information around Microsoft.
I just think Sony can maybe potentially do some super risky, really weird things because they're ending this last gen so strong.
Yeah.
But again,
we'll see.
So scary to make those bets.
It's not going away though. Trust me. If you went to E3 2006, you'd be like, "Oh my God, this E3 is a jamboree."
Right.
Seriously. What else? Majora Tom, if nothing changes, what do you think the over-under is on how much longer E3 lasts? Do you think another show could overtake E3 in the West like Gamescom overtook Leipzig? No, Leipzig was Gamescom.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the same show.
Again, I think E3 could take many wacky forms and still be called E3. I think you could still do an event even that doesn't have a place.
Over-under is 5 years, to answer his question.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to last at least 5 years. That's where it starts to get fuzzy if they let it fly off the rails.
Sure. I mean, this gen was 9 years, 10 years?
7. Yeah.
Okay. So, about a gen.
Yep. That's about right.
That's always the next question of when that cycle comes around. And 7 years is also like the same. It's when remakes happen again, and it's when you can it's when everybody gets out of school and graduates and goes to college and starts focusing on other stuff, and then you get a whole new batch of people to come in and buy your stuff.
Majora Tom, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. 24 months. Thank you, man. J Reed Vic 7, although I'm excited for the new consoles, definitely less excited overall because of certain things about how games have changed. What from the prior generations do you guys miss most? Midnight launches and water cooler talks around music games for me. So basically, what do you miss most about the old days?
Oh, it's a dumb thing that I miss. I miss the Warriors on PS2 and Godfather on 360 and the Thing,
licensed movie
and
games?
The Thing on Xbox.
Really?
Yeah, I miss them
These
spending a
cheap
lot of money
licensed
on
cash-ins?
Yeah, I miss them, man. They're so stupid, but I miss them because they're gone. We don't get those things. You got to play Dreams. Let's get this.
J Reed Vic, thanks for 13 months of Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Oh, a reminder to everybody. You can access Pachter Factor a week early now if you subscribe via Twitch Prime. It's at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. Click on the videos tab, and if you subscribe, you get them early, just like you're a patron or a subscriber at sifted.net. Viz, not a question, but just wanted to say how great it is to see both you guys. Been huge GT and Invisible Walls fans back in the day. Could have spent days on GT. I still remember I stayed up till 3 a.m. for live episode 200, but never claimed a T-shirt. But I may have one. I may have your shirt, actually. By the way, do you know what happens with Epic Battle Cry, guys? It was my favorite show of all time. They're still around. In fact,
I follow all the guys.
Brent is going to do something with us. Believe it or not. It's set in stone.
Is that part next week?
No. It's not. It's not a part of 200. I'm glad you brought that up, though. He's not a part of that. But people reached out to us and kind of said the same thing on Twitter. It's like, hey, what are those guys doing?
Yeah.
And connected us. And I was like, I'll have them on anytime. I love those guys. And he's like, well, I'm willing to do it. And so that's where it's sitting right now. So we're going to have him on.
Neat.
Getting DK back on, I don't think is a possibility, though. I don't think Epic's going to let him go on some podcast.
Sure. I mean, DK seems cozy in terms of where he is right now.
Yeah.
He's just still doing that. Hosting like nobody hosts before.
He's like the in-house host of Epic.
And Epic, yeah. He goes and he does run, does all that stuff.
Anyway, thanks, Iviz, for the kind words, man.
Yeah.
Veritas, thank you for Twitch Prime. Sneaky Schnawled Snake, my favorite sifter name anyway. He says, a game stopped me from killing myself.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Because again, I mean, if you, people, marry each other if they meet during MMOs. A game can, and again, a game connects you to other human beings and the work other human beings have done, and you never know when you find those things. Ian's really fascinating to follow as a fan because it takes a lot to please that guy, and it's so great. There's so many times in the podcast we'll all just four of us will be at a desk and be excited by something. What are you, Ian? He's like, I don't care. It's he just doesn't. He's just it just takes a lot for me to really be interested. There's just I'm still watching movies. I make music. There's so many interests and so many talents that his brain's just across the board when it comes to consuming stuff. And so when you get him, when you actually do, when it lands, Outer Wilds was his big. We thought Control was going to be his big game. He was really looking forward to that, and then just out of nowhere, in the last couple months, he was like, "Oh, hands down, Outer Wilds is my game of the year."
What?
So it was really, it's one thing to understand the merits of that game. It's another thing to specifically have him tell you what it means emotionally, and like you were saying with the averse effect of. You being resistant to racing games following this tragic event, fascinating for me to have this little baby boy and then play Death Stranding. It's just man, let's
here's the next
in the
question,
incinerator.
Actually. Well, from one Supermaster Gamer, what will be the first game you introduce to your son?
Probably a Lego game or something like that.
Pokemon?
Probably. Oh boy. Depends. Depends on what the newest thing is.
Well, you can school him on it now.
The thing that's cool about Pokemon is I do have two godsons, and it's been fascinating, for their entire lives since I've known them, to what they've, what they're still into, and Pokemon just completely has stood the test of time over 5-6
I
years
still
of
play
one
it.
of their lives.
I played
but
the first
really,
one, and I still play it.
For us, I think once you get into your 20s, 30s, 40s, you consume just generally a lot more. But it's just like their attention span really just kind of this and then this and then this. And it's just always in the passenger seat. Pokemon just cruising along.
The J-Strom. Now that video quality in games and video is so good, isn't it time for FMV games to return and finally do it right? I mean, they have. I mean, Her Story was like a contender for Game of the Year, and Telling Lies
last year, and
they have kind of revived.
Yeah, somebody did like a Seventh Guest.
Yep.
Played it. I can't remember, like a Seventh Guest remake type thing. And we are still, you have the Man of Medan, what that's called, the Dark something Chronicles or whatever. Like that's very photorealistic, and that definitely those actors come across in that. So we are kind of seeing the next. Stuff
like Until Dawn. I mean, it's
the same developer. Yeah,
I mean, they're all basically FMV driven games. They're just some of them are real time.
Yeah.
We'll answer a couple more if we have them. Game trailers for life. That's Sifted Games. All right, I think that's it.
Very cool.
Brandon.
Shane. Dude.
I
appreciate
really
everybody.
do love you.
I really appreciate everybody that was just like, are we certainly going to talk about game trailers like this entire time? But it just was the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. That was so crazy and was so.
Just think about how meteoric.
So many people were involved.
Yeah.
So many people came and went. We were talking about our 3 wacko actor friends. I just like to see what they're doing now. And I just that it's tough not to just like go on and on and on and on.
It is, yeah.
We
did that last time though.
Oh yeah.
And so I wanted to try to steer it clear of that this time.
Yeah.
But I will say this: like, people don't get tired of hearing us talk about it. Like, it's bizarre. Like, it was just kind of one of those magic moments in time where everything just aligned, and it's insane what we did at Game Trailers. It really is
insane. This business is insane.
Just meteoric.
It's super weird.
It just exploded.
Yeah.
It was a lot of hard work. Don't get me wrong, but
it was the right time to do the right thing.
Right
so
thing at the right time with the right people.
That's why it's so hard, to look at all sorts of different opportunities in media, and just like games are just so cool.
Yeah, why would you do
It's so
anything
fascinating to cover them and to make, to meet people through them, to make content around it, because what we do one year is not going to be the next year.
Yep.
So it's like all these predictions are all going to be wrong. I can't wait to go back and watch this episode a year from now and be like, what was that? I thought, what about Microsoft? Like, it's fun.
Well,
I guess.
This has been a pleasure, Brandon Jones. Thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
It is a landmark episode. You guys may not know this. This is the last time that GameFace is going to look like this. This is it. These are the last waning seconds of GameFace in its current incarnation. Next Tuesday at 1 p.m.
Cool.
It's gonna be all different. The website is going to be relaunched.
It's fun.
We're going to have a couple new shows for you guys to check out, all in 6 days. We have been killing ourselves behind the scenes. We're really, really excited about it. So be back here next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. For those of you guys listening on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, it'd be awesome if you could help us out at patreon.com/sifted. If you don't have any cash or you're just a tightwad, you can give us $2.50 for free.
The tightwad tier.
Yeah, the tightwad tier, which is Twitch Prime. If you're watching this on YouTube, the directions for Twitch Prime are down below.
Where can I buy the tightwad shirt from Sifted?
That's the next one. Cool. That's our new design.
Nice.
Yep. And like I said earlier in the show, if you're a Twitch Prime subscriber, you get Pactor Factor a week early now on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. So once again, you can find Brandon on Twitter at Trailer Jones. You can find me at Dinfire. That's DINFIRE. Thanks to everybody who checked us out on the live stream. Thanks for all the Amazon Prime, all the bits. Thanks to the man, Brandon Jones. Congratulations. Good luck with Easy Allies going forward. We'll be back here next week. GameFace is up and out.